Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha from the great US of A. We've got some nice weather over here in Ohio, and it's a little colder at sometimes, but it's definitely not the usual Florida warm weather. I think Florida's still getting a little bit more heat, and looks like Rabbi Kefa side is also beginning to have a little cold over there. So basically, I've got a couple of announcements. Just number one, that we're going to push our time back 1 hour. We're going to go start the room at 9 o'clock Eastern from next week. So it'll be, please note it down, 9 o'clock Eastern time, and it will be 8 o'clock Central time in the future. So we can we can come in a little earlier, we can do the class, and then we can finish. Hopefully the idea is to finish so you guys can finish by lunchtime or before that, so that the families can go have lunch, dinner with their families. And Shabbat, Sabbath is all about spending time with your family, and of course, the idea of spending time with your family is that you discuss the Word of God, and you discuss your week and how God has done great miracles and blessings in your life. That's the idea, and I think that we'll stick to that, because that's very important. Now, that's the first one, and the second one is, of course, for those early birds, I may still start a little earlier. So if we're going to set 8 o'clock Eastern, sorry, that's 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. If it's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern as the time to start, then I may still kick start at about 8:30. Most probably I will, if I'm around, if I'm not traveling. So that's that basically. I would also like to encourage you that I think that it is very important, and I reiterate my point once again, as I did to. I had a discussion last night with James, and James is in the room. Good morning to you, James. And I had a couple of lengthy discussions with him yesterday, and I want to give thanks to the mighty Lord Jesus of Nazareth, that is the Messiah Yeshua, who we serve. I want to give thanks to him that James came to me last week, really distressed, and I don't want to go over everything that he's distressed about, but I'll just tell you one thing, because obviously his contract had expired on his job. And as you know that, not just America, any country, if you don't have a job, life becomes very difficult, especially when you have to pay bills. Bills don't stop. You still have to eat something. So food you have to buy, bills don't stop, and the fact that your life still has to go on. So, and if suddenly your income, your finances come to a halt, then bills start to pile up. You start to overload, and that's when worry starts, and stress, depression, all those things kick in. So anyhow, basically in a nutshell, James was having issues in that department, where his contract had expired. He now had to look for a new job. And the thing is this, I'm going to give you very important advice, and I think that you need to bind that, and you need to take it to the grave with you. Number one is that don't come to me last minute. Don't come to me when you get hit by cancer. Rabbi, I got hit by cancer and I'm going to the hospital. Don't do that. That's very, very foolish, a very, very unwise thing to do. You need to come to me 6 months ahead, a year ahead, 5 years ahead. You need to come to me ahead of time, and you need to ask me to help you in your health, in your wealth. Ask me for directions. I've been in the financial world a long time. Probably some of you haven't been in your corporate world that long, and I've been in the financial world a very long time. Over 20 years I've spent in that world, in banking world, and in money world, seeing and flowing billions of dollars, billions of pounds. So if you need financial advice, you need to come to me 1 year, 2 years ahead, 5 years ahead of your problems. Because if you don't come to me earlier and you come at the day that you're about to have a mental breakdown, that's not a good thing. So you need to come earlier. So I can help you, give you some financial advice. I can help you have some financial planning so that you can invest your money wisely. So for that rainy day, when you come to that point, if God forbid you don't have a job, then can I be service to you in that way? Because it is better to me in service to you to preempt the problem. Not that you come at the problem and say, now I got a fire, can you help me put it out? That's not the way to do things, okay? That's definitely not the way to do things. I discourage it. You need to come earlier, number one. Number two, financial planning is very important in everybody's life. And you need to plan ahead. You should never be at a point where you end up with struggling to pay your bills. You should never be at that point. So that means you need to make proper investments in the proper time so that you don't come to that situation where you don't have money to pay your bills. And I think that's again very important. That's all down to planning. When you get into your jobs, of course, all of you, and that means all of you that are in working age, should be having pension plans, should be having additional saving plans on top of that. And you should be saving money in your pensions, and you should be saving money in your additional savings plans. And if you don't do that, then you're asking for trouble. Because look, let's be honest about it. When you are 65 years old, Uncle Sam's not going to come to your rescue. Uncle Sam's not going to come and say, well, let me give you $100,000 because you don't have the money. Uncle Sam's not going to do that. So you're going to have to do that for yourself. And you're going to have to plan, and then you can allow prosperity to come into your life. So let me tell you a very, very important Bible verse, which I know all of you read the Bible. All of you read it, and I can tell you all of you read it every week. And the problem is this, that because you read it doesn't mean you understand it. I can guarantee you that most of you don't understand the Bible. Because what you have done, you have been taught the Bible by rote. In other words, read the Bible and study it and, go your merry way. That's how you've been taught the Bible. Read it, recite it, or maybe you memorize a few scriptures here and there, and then you go your merry way. That is not how the Bible is to be applied. The Bible is the Word of God. And when it's the Word of God, it means one second, let me just deal with a few people over here first. If those of you who have come into this room, I think that it's best you leave this room, that if you're going to start to judge me, because I am not going to permit you to judge me, because I'm not judging you. I'm giving you sound advice free of charge, which your financial advisors will charge you hundreds of thousands, if not more money, and you don't get that free advice. So I'm going to have to bounce a few people from this room to start with. I'm not going to tolerate anybody in this room who comes with their little chips on their shoulder. So the first thing is that you must come to me earlier, so that I can give you sound financial advice, so that you can be in a position to prosper and not to be in a situation of breakdown, because that's just not right, and it defies the Word of God. It really does, and I will explain why it defies the Word of God. Because we are told, and this is not just a saying, people kind of throw the Bible around like it's some kind of a magic book, and because they know one saying, that they're somehow going to benefit out of it. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 18, where there is no vision, the people perish. Now this is the problem with most people today. They have no vision, they have no future, they have no goals, they have no idea where they are going from A to B. So they are running with life, they're moving with their life, and one week they're at one place, next week they are somewhere else, and the third week they are somewhere completely different. So it is very important that you have established in your life certain parameters of where you want to be. You know, when you go to a job interview, the employers, especially in England, and I don't know about America, because America they may not ask you this question, but in England they ask you, they say, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? That's always a question they ask in an interview, especially in corporate jobs. Obviously they're not going to ask you that in a McDonald's job, but they ask you, if you go into a corporate job, they'll say to you, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And you better have a good answer, because that's how they determine whether you are suitable material for work or whether you're not suitable material for work. That's a very important interview question. And I would turn that around and I will say to you, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And I think that's the important question to ask, because if you don't ask that question to yourself, I am pretty sure, I can guarantee you this, that if, for instance, we all get into families, eventually those of us that are not married, eventually will have to marry and have children if we don't have children. And so therefore, even your spouses are going to ask you this question, or spouse-to-be, they would want to know, when they get into a relationship with you, they would want to know your personal standing, and they would want to know your aspirations and your goals. And you better have some aspirations and goals, because if you don't have aspirations and goals, guess what? That woman or that man will be running 10 miles from you, because you don't have any aspirations. And I have seen people in Pensacola, Florida, I'm talking about Pensacola, Florida now, where I live, is I've seen people over there that where I saw them 4 years ago, roughly 4 years ago, because well, actually it's 4 years, it's 4 years in October, so it's 4 years, those people were exactly at the same point, or I would say even worse. They're at actually a slightly worse point than they were 4 years ago. No goals, no direction, no life. In fact, those people had a house 4 years ago, now they don't have a house. Those people, their health was a bit better 4 years ago, now they're even more dire straits. They're going to the hospital, they're having heart attacks, they're having all these problems. They were smoking 4 years ago, they're still smoking 4 years later. So nothing has changed. In fact, things have got worse. There is no vision. When there is no vision, the person will perish. So please take note, being that God has placed me here, I didn't volunteer to come over here. You all know that. I didn't volunteer to come into this country. I was sent here. Lecha is all about God sending somebody. Lecha, the Parsha that we're going to study today, Genesis chapter 12, is all about God picking up somebody and saying, you have to go from this country to that country. Abraham did not decide to leave his country of origin, which was Turkey, by the way. He didn't decide to leave Turkey to move into Israel. He just didn't decide one day, you know what, I'm going to leave this country, I'm going to leave my family, I'm going to pick up my goats, my lambs, my sheep, and I'm going to go to Israel, all the way over there, a few thousand miles away. He didn't decide to take that journey by a personal whim. He was taken there by God, and I think that is absolutely pertinent to understand. Simon Altaf did not come to the shores of America because he just decided one day he's fed up of his $100,000 job, he's fed up of his Mercedes, beautiful Mercedes, his houses he has in England, and he's just going to pack his bags up and go to America. No, that didn't happen like that. So God has brought me to this land, and if He's brought me to this land, there is a purpose behind it, and that purpose shall be fulfilled. So with that in mind, I want to give praise to the God that I serve, to the God that we all serve, the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth. We serve Him, and therefore I want to give Him praise that James came to me just a week ago, really distressed, and I said to James exactly the words he spoke to me. I have acted 100% just as my Master Jesus did. 100% I acted in the same spirit, in the same manner. He said to me, such and such and such, and I told him it shall be so, and it was so. And so James can tell you that in his own private time, in his own testimony, in his own text messages. He can tell you that how the words he spoke are now true. Having said that, this is why I'm saying to you, I'm imploring you to understand this point, that you must come to me before your fire starts. Don't come to me when the fire has started and say, Rabbi, how shall I put the fire out now that the fire has started? It's not very wise to do that. So having said that, let's move forward, and as our Parsha is Lecha, I want to give you the joke of the week to start, because it's a very relevant joke and it's very important, and you'll see how it will dovetail with our lecture. There was a priest who was preparing a dying man for his voyage into the great beyond. Whispering firmly, the priest said to the man, "Denounce the devil. Let him know how little you think of his evil." The dying man said nothing. The priest repeated his order. Still the dying man said nothing. The priest asked, "Why do you refuse to denounce the devil and his evil?" The dying man said, "Until I know where I'm heading, I don't think I ought to aggravate everybody or anybody." So there is a key point to this, an important point. The fact that this man says, "Until I know where I'm heading." Now, this is half the problem with the world. Half the problem with the world today. I was reading a book, and I was reading from that book something that was kind of a very interesting remark, where it basically said that it was giving some statistics, and it said that out of 50 people, it was kind of discussing America, and it said that America is one of the richest nations on this planet, and everybody in America should be making it. But it said out of every 50 people in America, it was kind of giving a general synopsis, and the author summarized that out of every 50 people, only 5 people made it. 45 people didn't make it. So the author was asking the question, why? Why is it that out of 50 people, if the total population, he summarized it in population, if the total population is 50 people, out of that total population, only one person was financially independent, 4 people had a proper future planning set up and done, and the other 45 were all over the place. And all those people, he said, went to school, they did education, they studied, they went into, so many of them went into the workforce, and by the time they retired at 65, only 5 people made it to their goals. Other 95 people were, out of those other 95% of people, he suggested that 80% of the people, as high as 80%, were basically unemployed, and they were looking out to a relative to support them. Now that's actually statistics, by the way. This is not just a fable. This is statistics that in America today, I believe that the figure might be near 40 to 42 million people are on what's called social services. They're on welfare, social services programs, different types of programs in this country. 40 million plus people are on that program today. Now, if this nation is a 300 million people nation, you can ascertain yourself where majority of the people are. And 40 million people out of 300 million people, that's a lot of people that are today on welfare. And what you find, and what I've actually read, and what I have seen in this country, is that the problem is this: if your first generation, your second generation, if all they have known is welfare, then the third generation and the fourth generation will also end up on welfare. I want you to think about that for a minute. If the first generation and the second generation That is your parents, by the way. That is your parents and your foreparents. In other words, your granddad, your grandmother, your mother and your father. First generation, second generation. If they were on welfare, then the chances are that you, the third generation, and your children will also end up on welfare. By the way, these are statistics, and this is what happens. Because what happens majority of the time is that this is the kind of psychology as well. People say that my grandfather was on welfare, my mommy was on welfare, and I'm on welfare. That's the problem. The mindset is set to be on welfare, and that, by the way, is a critical issue that people need to address. Now, don't take this the wrong way. Don't think that, oh, because I'm black, I'm on welfare, or because I'm white, I'm on welfare. No, it's nothing to do with black, it's nothing to do with white. Because there are people in this country, black people in this country, if you want to call it black, because there's no such thing as black color and white color, but if you want to call it black, then there are black people in this country, very, very successful. Very, very successful black people in this country. Oprah Winfrey is one of them. You know Oprah Winfrey. Very successful black person, came through all sorts of hardships. Today she is very, very successful. So therefore it is not a color thing, that just because your color is not right, somehow the environment is against you, or oxygen doesn't like you because your skin color is darker. This is unfortunately what I find in this country. It is a crutch. People use it as a crutch to beat themselves up over it. So remove the crutch, the problem goes away. If you carry the crutch, your problem will remain. You yourselves, I want you to listen to this lecture 50 times over. You yourselves are your worst enemy, because you yourselves stop yourselves from succeeding. Let me repeat that again. You yourselves are your worst enemy, because you stop yourselves from succeeding. So who needs to change? You need to change. We need to stop blaming the devil, stop blaming your auntie, stop blaming your father, stop blaming your grandfather, stop blaming the slave traders, stop blaming Columbus, and stop blaming everybody else, but the one person that you should be addressing is yourself. When you start being truthful and honest to yourself, when you start addressing yourself, then you will find that whole hatred, that whole hatred that you carry for others will suddenly disappear. No longer you will find yourself stuck. No longer you will find that you can't find jobs. No longer you will find that you can't be successful. So you got to deal with yourself. I was reading the report of a surgeon. A surgeon had written that there was a man, and this is a plastic surgeon, and this plastic surgeon had basically said to this effect, that there was a man that came into his office, and this man had slightly larger ears and slightly bigger nose, and this man was so worried about his large nose and large ears that he stopped going out of his home. He stopped standing at the bus stop, because he thought to himself, everybody's looking at me. Everybody's saying, look at that ugly man. He looks so ugly. He's got large ears and big nose. And he said, when he came to me, his parents were distraught. His parents brought the young man to me. This is a young man, by the way. They brought the young man to him and he said, doctor, this man, our son, is having these issues, and we want to ask you if we can do surgery on him and shorten his ears, and maybe surgery on his nose to shorten his nose. And the doctor looked at the man and looked at the parents, and he told them, actually there's nothing wrong with his ears, there's nothing wrong with his nose. His ears and his nose are about average to some people in this country, and they're not bigger than most people, and they're not smaller than most people. And he said the nose isn't bigger than most people. This is just a Roman nose. It's about average size for a Roman nose. So he said, let me talk to this young man, and let me help him, because he needed to adjust and change his psychology. His problem, the man's problem, wasn't in the big ears, it was in his mind. So this doctor then started to speak to this man, give him psychological lessons, teach him what he needed to do, and before you know it, the whole thing turned around, and this man no longer saw himself as ugly, no longer saw himself as, standing out there and people talking about him, and he was completely fixed, healed, and he then was succeeding in life. So it was all about mindset. A lot of you are carrying a negative mindset, and your negative mindset is what's defeating you. You are your own worst enemy if you continue to see yourself in a negative light. So that needs to be removed. Now you may ask, how do I remove it, Rabbi? Well, for that you'll have to counsel with me. I don't give advice over the air to everybody, that I don't even know who you are. So if you need advice in that direction, you're going to have to write to me, and you're going to have to phone. If you have my telephone number, you can text me, phone me, whatever, or you can definitely write me an email. And my email address is available world over. It is Shimon63, SHIMOUN63 @yahoo.com. I'll repeat that again, SHIMOUN63 @yahoo.com. James is saying that I would like to esteem the Abba for a new job offer that I received within 5 days of the instruction I followed from HaKohen and his declaration that I would receive my request. Baruch Hashem Yahweh for his faithfulness, loving kindness, and his Kohen in our gate. Todah also for the loving kindness of HaKohen, Chief Rabbi Kefa, Rabbi Benaiah, and Rabbi Zechariah. Okay, Todah for that. And so what I would suggest to you is that half the problem is not that, there's Illuminati out there, there is, skulls and bones, there is the Brotherhood, there is the Masonic Lodge, they're all chasing us, they're all watching us. You see, a lot of you spending enormous amount of time chasing the wind. That's half your problem. There's a person here in Ohio that I have to speak to a few times to address this issue. Fanciful theories, conspiracy theories, this and that and the third, Illuminati this and Illuminati that. I will suggest to you that you drop all of that today. And you need to focus on yourself. Illuminati don't care whether you eat or whether you die. They don't care. They're not interested in you. The little, one, living wherever you are living. They're not interested. You're a number. You're just a number to them. They don't give two hoots about you. What they care about is how much wealth they make, and is their wealth growing, and is it growing enormously, and is it growing at a fast, at a nice pace. That's what the Illuminati are. Just a bunch of you rich families in the world, and they care about their wealth. And who wouldn't? Who wouldn't care about their wealth? Everybody does. So let's not go around, blaming everybody and their dog for our problems. Now, Adelia is saying that Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha, I've recently traveled to Qatar after taking HaKohen's instructions, and I met a wonderful man after conversing for many months, and we are now engaged. I had a safe travel there and back thanks to Abba Yahweh. Baruch Hashem, Abba Yahweh, Baruch Hashem for his mercy, and Baruch Hashem for his loving kindness, and Baruch Hashem that Simon Altaf, that man, unknown man who was, sitting in a town in Aylesbury, an unknown town that nobody even heard of, he comes from there, and he happens to follow the voice of the Master Yeshua, follow the voice of Jesus, and he's able to be here today and to give advice and to give loving kindness to those people that rightfully deserve it. Those people that want to follow in the footsteps of Jesus of Nazareth, they rightfully deserve kindness, loving kindness, and God has chosen me and God has chosen you, as you will see today, as I will declare to you that God has chosen you. God has appointed you. Never think that you are here just because it happens to be, a nice Saturday morning and we happen to be all together and we happen to just be in one place. No, if you are here today, then you have been appointed by God to have this appointed time with his Kohen. I said this to James yesterday. I said to James, I will speak respectfully, and I will say it with respect, not with pride, that when I speak, God speaks. Listen to what God says, and you will do well in your life. Stop chasing Africa, stop chasing China, stop chasing this, stop chasing that. Some of you are still stuck with Africa. Some of you are still stuck maybe in China, and some of you may be in Korea, North Korea maybe. So you need to stop doing that. You need to focus where the focus belongs. The focus belongs with you, not with Africa, not with China, and not what Pakistan and India are doing. No, the focus belongs right here in your house. Your spouse, your children. If you have children and if you are married, your spouse is concerned about you and her and the children where you are as a family. She's not interested what China is doing with America, whether they have whether Mr. Trump, our president, is going to add more taxes to the trade deals. She's not interested in that. She's interested in, are we going to have good breakfast today? Are you going to take me out today, honey? She's interested in that. She's not interested in your BS about China, about, the trade deal has gone awfully wrong and stock prices have fallen down. And she's not interested in that. She's not interested in that. Absolutely, Rabbi Kefa has China in his home. What she's interested in is you and her. Honey, are we going to go breakfast today? Are you going to take me out? Are you going to buy me flowers? Are you going to buy me that beautiful dress? That is what your honey is interested in, and that's where your focus should be as well, with your family. If your focus is not with your family, then your priorities are very wrong. If you're chasing China, if you're chasing Africa, if you're chasing India, if you're chasing America, if you're chasing President Trump, if you're doing these things, then your focus is in the wrong place. You need to bring your focus back where it should be. You, your mindset, your goals. What are you doing with your life? That's where your focus needs to be. Years ago, let me give you a true testimony. Years ago, when I was 22 years old or 21 years old, I'm not that old, by the way, I'm not like 70, 80 years old, young man. But years ago, when I was 21, 22 years old, I made a conscious choice to myself. Two choices I made to myself. Number one, God will speak to me, because God can speak to me. That's the first choice I made. Second choice I made, I said that I will not work in an injection molding machine shop. I will not work in a factory producing cups, plates, plastic curtain rails for the rest of my life. I'm going to be working in a corporate job. Those two choices, by the way, changed my whole life. My whole rest of my life, today I'm 55 years old. The rest of my life changed dramatically when I made those two choices. In other words, make a decision with your life, what you're going to do with your life, and that decision will carry you forward. If you don't have a decision, if you don't have a vision, remember I just spoke about vision earlier. It's not just a statement. It's not just something to throw out there. It is something to apply in your life. Have a vision, make a decision, and then follow that decision. And once I made that decision, it wasn't just a decision, it wasn't just a vision. I wanted to work on the vision, and I started to work on that vision. Every day I worked on that vision. Every morning I would wake up and I would say, God, speak to me. You're going to speak to me. Every day I started doing that. Every day, knowing that God will speak to me one day. And guess what? 10 years down the road, God indeed spoke to me. So I was right. Everybody else around me were wrong. Everybody around me were wrong, and I was the only one right. Why? Because I had a vision and I had a decision. These are the two key elements. You can go to the richest man in the world. You can go to John D. Rockefeller. You go to his graveside and ask him. Ask his children. You can go to one of the other richest guys in the world, and Andrew Carnegie, or you can go to the richest people today and ask them what changed their lives. And you know what they're going to tell you? Vision and decision. Vision and decision. These two things change their life. And the rest is all commentary. I guarantee you that. Their billions didn't come from procrastinating and worrying and thinking where the money is going to come from. No. They made a decision and they had a vision. Now, if you don't have those two items, if you don't have those, you're going to struggle for the rest of your life. I guarantee you that. But if you make that decision today, and you adapt a vision today, and you work on it, you will never look back. You will thank me one day that I taught you this. Because a lot of people don't know that they need to do this. And you're not too late, and you're not too old. You're not too old to apply this in your life. These are the two key elements. I want to take you to Lecha. I want you to read you something, and I'm going to teach you something that's going to revolutionize and change your lives forever. You will never look back. You'll never think the same. In Genesis chapter 12, we are told, it depends on which Bibles you read. I'm going to read from the Hidden Truths of Break Scrolls, the complete Bible. Now Yahweh said to Abram, get out of your country, from your native country, and from your Abba's Beit, to a land that I will show you. And I will make you a strong, mighty nation, and I will make you a benefit to others, and make your name great, and you shall be an increase to all who embrace you. I will bless those who come to bless you, and I will curse him who despises you and sees you as worthless. And in you all the mishpachot, families of the earth, shall be engrafted. So Abram departed as Yahweh had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Now, let's look at the key takeaways. The key takeaways in this, Abraham wasn't a snappy 21-year-old man. He was 75 years old. Some of you are not yet 75. So Abraham was definitely not a 21-year-old man receiving instructions from God. He had actually passed the prime of his life. He was no longer in the prime of his life. He was now at what you might call in those days, might be termed today as maybe middle age or just past middle age. He was heading towards retirement. And God tells him that I'm going to do these things. Now what was Abraham's response? Now ask yourself this question. What is your response to this question? Well, what did Abraham say? Hang on a minute, God. Excuse me, are you talking to me? This is your response. Most of the people today, they'll say, are you talking to me? Because they don't know God's talking to them. So most of you don't know God is speaking to you. I had to remind James that there is a young woman, and James, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. There is a young woman that likes James. And I had to remind James that God is talking to you. Because James was like, hello God, are you talking to me? I said, yes, he's talking to you. So when people come into your lives, God is speaking to you. Don't look up and say, hey God, are you talking to me? Because I'm hearing a voice, but I don't see a form. I don't see a body, and I'm not sure where I'm hearing this voice from. A lot of you today are stuck in the rut because you think that God has to be in a certain way. You see, problem is not with God. Problem is with you. Because most of you are stuck with, hey God, are you talking to me? Because I just heard something. This next door neighbor told me something. I think it might be you speaking to the next door neighbor, but I'm not sure. Can I get a confirmation, please? Can you send a dove or an eagle? A lot of you are doing that today. Honestly, you are doing that today. And I can tell you categorically that God is speaking to you today. But most of you don't hear Him. So what does Abraham do? He doesn't look up and says, God, are you talking to me or are you talking to the next door neighbor Fred? I don't know if you're talking to me or Fred. So first thing Abraham does, he acknowledges God. He hears Him, he acknowledges Him. When I heard the voice of God in 1998, 20 years ago, the first thing I did is I acknowledged God. I said, I hear your voice. I hear it. And I'm going to act on it. And what does Abraham do? Abraham doesn't say, let me go and ask the missus. hey honey, come over here, Sarai, come over here. I just heard God's voice. And God just told me to leave our home. And God told me to leave my job. And God told me to pack my bags and go. What do you think Sarah's response would be? Sarah's response will be, are you gone crazy? Are you gone mad? Are you going to just leave everything up and go? Do you think Sarah's response was that? Now look at the synergy. I want you to consider this one passage, because there's a lot in this passage. We can't just leave this passage and jump all over the Torah portions just trying to, find information, nuggets. The whole nugget is in this particular scripture. And what does it say? It says that Abraham, the very next verse tells us, it says Abraham departed as Yahweh had spoken. In other words, we are saying, don't read in this that, oh, Abraham just packed his bags and left. No, obviously after that, he would have got his wife. He would have said to her, Sarai, please sit down. I have some information for you. God has spoken to me, and we have to leave this country. We have to go. And we have to go quickly. We have to wrap up our business. We have to sell our properties. We have to sell our lands. And we have to, give whoever the money we need to give, and we need to leave this country. Now, look at this model. Look at the model. How faithful and sincere Sarah was to Abraham. Now, here comes your second crutch. Your second crutch is going to be, my wife don't listen to me. If I tell my wife to make tea for me, she tells me, go make it yourself. I'm going to challenge you today that the reason why your wife don't make tea for you is because there's a problem with you, not with her. I'm going to challenge you on that. Why? Because if you don't treat your wife correctly, she's not going to make your tea or your coffee. So the problem again comes back not at the Illuminati, because Illuminati have so much money and my wife don't make me tea, and President Trump said this and I don't like it, and Obama said this and I don't like it, and I don't like Hillary Clinton. None of that matters, because what matters is you at the end of the day and how you treat your wife. If you treat your wife badly, if you mistreat her, if you give her the feeling that you are the head honcho, and she is a little lowly her, that's not in a very good place to be. And it's likely she's not going to listen to you. So you may have to drop down maybe 10 notches and come to her level and be humble with her. Because if you're not humble with her, she's not going to be humble with you. A lot of the problems today in marital homes is exactly this. Is that husbands, they put themselves on a pedestal and they think that they are God's given gift to man. They are the best thing since slice of bread. And maybe that's true for some husbands. Maybe they are the best slice of bread out there. But having said that, humility is very important. Very, very important. How we treat other people is so very important. And I will come to a particular point in Jesus of Nazareth's life where he exactly demonstrated this point that I'm making today. I'll come to that later in the lecture. Yes, Torah Walker, treat others the way you want to be treated, exactly. Adelia is saying that I didn't need anyone else's confirmation, because once HaKohen instructed me what I need to do, then I listened to that. Chuda for that, Adelia, I'm very happy for you. Adelia is, I want you all to congratulate Adelia for her, safe travels to the Middle East and safe travels back, but for the bravery and for the courage that she has shown to actually go out there. Because most people would be fearful to go to the next state. This particular person has traveled overseas to a foreign land to meet a man that she had never met on my instructions, and she is very happy for it. So therefore instructions need to be followed, and this is why I said that our Abba and our Lord and Master Yeshua, he doesn't expect us to just read the Bible and sit on our on our backside and do nothing about it. We need to do something about it. We need to follow instructions. And here Abraham has already spoken to his wife the wife is in complete agreement, because in the very next verse, verse 5, Genesis 12, it says, then Abraham took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. Immediately, Abraham discussed it with his wife. The relationship was sound. It was beautiful. We need to learn a lesson. What tricks or what techniques did Abraham have? They had such a wonderful wife, such a wife that obedient, loyal to him, follows him wherever he goes. This is a question that all of you need to be asking. Because if you're not asking that question, then you're not reading the Bible for what it is. You're just treating it like a little story. So we need to see that. We need to see that. So if Abraham, we can deduce from Abraham's outward works, we know that Abraham was a very kind man. He was very kind to other people, what you today will class as Gentiles. He was very kind to all the Gentile people, all his neighbors around him. But he didn't go around shouting, Gentile, 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 don't touch, Gentile. What is today happening in the Jewish world, by the way? Oh, Gentile, don't touch it. Oh, Gentile, don't go to his house. Oh, Gentile, don't drink his tea. This is a nonsense and disrespect of God's creation being demonstrated in the Jewish world today. Stop being disrespectful. Because if you don't stop being disrespectful, what you will do is what you will get. In other words, if you're disrespectful to others, you will not get respect. You will get disrespect. If you go around shouting, Gentiles, I'm not going to touch his coffee, I'm not going to touch his cup, I'm not going to shake his hand, I'm not going to pat him on the back, I'm not going to say congratulations, he's a Gentile. We need to change our attitude, how we treat people. We need to change that. Because what we learn from our father Abraham is that he had a beautiful union with his wife, and they agreed with each other. Abraham didn't go and get permission from Sarah. We can see that from this text. The text tells us that Abraham took Sarah. Means that you take something and she goes, that item goes with you, like you pick up your telephone from your table. You just pick up your telephone and the telephone goes with you. That was Sarah, by the way. I'm not saying that Sarah was a telephone, but I'm saying the relationship was such that Sarah trusted Abraham with everything of her life. She had totally devoted herself that she was going to be one with Abraham and live with him. Because Abraham, why did she decide that? And the outer works of Abraham reveal because he was a kind man. If he was kind to strangers, people he didn't know, think for a second how kind he would be to his own wife that he knew very well. Now, are you being kind to your wives? You need to ask yourself a question. Are you kind to your wives? And you need to determine that. The answer will be given to you by yourselves, because you need to determine that by your own homes, by your actions. And if you're falling, if there is an area in your life that you are falling down on, then you can definitely correct it. You can fix that area. Because if you've been unkind, if you've been judgmental, if you have done things that you shouldn't have done, then you know that there was an area in your life that you should have acted better and you didn't. And maybe now is the time to change that. And we take away from this thing that there are 7 things. There are 7 things. Maybe, yeah, that's right, Rabbi Kefa. Maybe somebody else should ask their wife, their spouse, that if the husband is kind to her, and she'll be able to, I think the wife will be able to answer that question. And I'm pretty sure that if he himself asked his wife, then the wife will be able to answer him whether he's a kind man or not. I'm pretty sure that she will be able to, unless she hates him, she may not tell him, but if she has any affection to him, she'll be able to tell him if he's a kind man or not. And I think that this is something that needs to be discussed in the family, more so than outside. And be prepared, be prepared to hear criticism. Be prepared to hear criticism, because if you're not, then you need to maybe learn to receive criticism as well as, good as well as bad. Now there are 7 direct promises in this particular Parsha, 7 direct promises that God gave Abraham, and I want you to consider this. God tells Abraham, I will make you a strong and mighty nation. Abraham was nothing but just a man. At that point in his life, Abraham was no such thing. He was not a mighty nation, he was not a mighty man either. He was just a man brought up in a family, and yes, the family had connections. Yes, his father had some military connections. Yes, he had an important position. But he was just like everybody else, but a little bit better off than some other people. This was Abraham's position. His family was a little better known. They were connected to the king, and they were politically connected. But Abraham had everything like you and me. He was no different to you and me in his day. And he was definitely not a mighty nation, because he didn't know that he's going to have mighty descendants. Now, today, when God is speaking to Abraham, God is speaking to you. I will make you a mighty man. I will make you a mighty nation. How many of you today have accepted that as God's voice? And if you haven't accepted it, you need to go back and look at it and read it for yourselves and study it and recite it and tell yourself daily, I'm a mighty man. If you're not telling yourself you're a mighty man, then you're a fool, because that's what God said. I didn't say that. Or I did say you're a fool, because guess who said you're a fool? God said you're a fool. Because when God says something, then you got to listen to God. Because God told you you're a mighty man. If you are a mighty man, then you're a mighty woman. In other words, if you're a female, then you're a mighty woman. If you're a male, you're a mighty man. You might say, but Rabbi, I just work, down the road in McDonald's. How can I be a mighty man? Because God said so. Because you have a great future ahead. You need to tell yourself that. I have a great future ahead. I'm a mighty man. I'm going to produce mighty nations. Years ago, I spoke to Rabbi Kefa, and Rabbi Kefa will probably remember my conversation with him. I said to Rabbi Kefa, and Rabbi Kefa at that time hadn't yet had any children. And his wife, I guess, he had children that were not really his children at the time. And I said to Rabbi Kefa, Rabbi Kefa, you need to have children, because your children are going to be the future kings. Kefa might remember my comment. And this is a while ago, and we are now just putting that into place. It took about 5 years, maybe 7 years, maybe 8 years for that to happen, but this is now being put into place around about a decade. It took nearly a decade for that thing to come to pass, where now we are putting that into place. So Kefa is saying that was 7 years ago when I told him that you need to have children, and your children are going to be future kings. Don't think for a second that your children are not future kings. Why did I say that? Well, we'll leave that to another time. But why I said it, because that was God's voice. God said that you're going to be a mighty nation. What else did God say to Abraham? Well, let's look at it. Let's look at it, and let's write these things down. I want you to write these 7 promises down and apply them to yourself. God said you're a mighty man and you're a mighty nation. Tell yourself, I'm a mighty man, I'm a mighty nation, every day. God said, I will bless you. You'll be blessing to others. Tell yourself, I am blessed. I'm a blessing to others. God said, I will make your name great. Tell yourself, my name is great. God said, you shall be an increase to others. Tell yourself, I will be an increase to others. God said, I will bless those who come to bless you. I will bless those who come to bless me. Tell yourself that. God said, I will curse him who curses you. Then tell yourself, God said that he will curse those who curse me. And God said, in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. Then you tell yourself, in me all the families of the earth will be blessed, because God said so. Evidence, Genesis chapter 12. So you write these 7 promises down. I will be a strong and mighty nation. I will be a blessing to others. My name is great. I will be a benefit to all the other people. I will bless those who come to bless me. I will curse. You won't curse them, but God will. God will curse those who come to curse me. And in me, God will bless the families of the earth. Write it down and then put down after it evidence, Genesis chapter 12. That's your evidence. So these are promises that God gave, and this is how you're going to list it. This is your goal. This is your decision. This is your vision. I have given you in one setting your vision and your goals. You write them down. When you write them down, every day you wake up and this is what you're going to read to yourself. I'm a mighty nation. I'm a benefit to others. My name is great. I shall be a blessing to others. I will bless those who come to bless me. God will deal with those who come to curse me. And God said all the families of the earth will be blessed through me. Evidence, Genesis chapter 12. Write it down, because this is going to carry with you to your grave, and you're going to pass this on to your children. And don't ever come to me and say to me, oh, Rabbi, I can't find a job, I can't do this, I can't do that. Because God has told you, God has put it in your DNA that you are His child. You need to remember that. God has said that it is in your DNA that you're going to do this. This is in your DNA, by the way. God has given you a covenant. This is a covenantal promise. And I remind you today that this is a covenantal promise to Abraham. What does that mean? Covenantal promise. Covenantal promise means that no matter what happens, how many hurricanes come, how many presidents change of this nation, you're going to get those promises. That's what it means. That means God is faithful, God is truthful, God never lies. That's what this means. And now let me take you to the next level. This is the next level. The next level is this. That never tell yourself that you are down there, that your skin color is black, your skin color is brown, your skin color is yellow, you're white. Maybe that's why people hate you. Remove all of that from you, because none of that applies. God has told you that you're going to be a great and mighty nation. You don't know, because you may say to me, Rabbi, how do you know? Because I know by faith. I know by faith. Faith is a substance of things not seen. Faith is all about knowing, but not having the evidence of everything. I don't need to have evidence. Well, I can have evidence in the past. I do have evidence in the past that this has happened to other people. But I don't have to have the evidence right now in front of me like a lawyer and say, well, in 5 years' time, such and such. No, I don't need to. But what I do know is that God will bring it to pass. Once you believe it, once you put your faith behind it, God will bring it to pass. If you tell yourself every day that I'm down, you will remain down. And if you tell yourself every day, I'm a mighty man, I'm a great nation, I'm a mighty man, I'm a great nation, you shall become a great nation. And that is what Scripture teaches us. Scripture teaches us, as you see it, you shall be. This is, by the way, 100% scriptural. As you see it, you shall be. And if you see yourself as down and out, jobless, and going to the social services and saying, well, my mother was on social welfare, her dog was on social welfare, her cat was on social welfare, my granddaddy was on social welfare, and I'm going to be on social welfare. If you think like that, then I can guarantee you that you will be on social welfare. What you think, you will be. So you need to change your thinking. You need to start thinking and acting and speaking the very words I told you today. They need to become part of your life daily. Everywhere you go, you need to remember that what promises God gave Abraham, they were not just promises to Abraham, they were promises to you and me as well, because we are Abraham's family. If last you forgot, let me remind you, we are Abraham's children. I had to remind somebody. I said, when I look at the stars, God said to Abraham, look at the stars and count your descendants. Because Abraham said, how shall I know? How do I know? I don't have any, crystal ball to know this. God said, look at the stars. So what does God do? God gives you an image. God gives you a symbol. And you have to look at that symbol. Because when you look at that symbol, that is your promise, by the way. That is your promise to success. And I said to somebody, I was speaking to somebody in Ohio, and I said to them, I said, you see those stars out there? My descendants are there. My future children are there. My families are there. I said, when God was declaring to Abraham, He wasn't just declaring to Abraham that, oh, this is your family. He was also telling Abraham that families are in there. In other words, if I am Abraham's son, then my family is there. I'm there. Abraham saw me as a star. And if you are looking at the stars today, think about it. When you look at the stars in your country, you see yourself as Abraham's descendants, the very descendants that God showed Abraham. You are there. Your children are there. Your children's children are there. Look at the immense blessing. Look at the immense power of that. And who said it? God said it. God never lies. So it's right in, it's right here. The blessings are waiting to be taken. But are you ready? Are you prepared? So we must prepare ourselves. We must prepare our minds and remove all negativities. Remove all worries. Because all these things do is they become a crutch. And they take you down further. And the lower you go, because you have made those things a crutch. Rabbi, I have a wooden leg. Rabbi, I've got diabetes. I think that maybe I may not make it. No, all of those things are a crutch. The moment you start reciting the promises, everything will go, everything will fix, everything will heal. Diseases will be healed, miracles will be shown. God will do amazing miracles in your life once you start doing that. So you need to change your mindset. And Rabbi Kefa, Rabbi Kefa is probably, out of all the rabbis, I speak with all the rabbis whenever I get a chance to speak to them. But Rabbi Kefa probably I get to speak to more often than anybody else. And we liaise a lot for different things, not necessarily just scripture, but other things as well. Financial planning and financial things going on and other things going on. So a lot of that goes on in behind the scenes between me and Rabbi Kefa. Rabbi Kefa gets a lot of good advice from me, and as Rabbi Kefa tells you, I eat the crumbs from the table. But those crumbs, even those crumbs, I'll tell you this much, they are worth a lot of money. Because those crumbs that Rabbi Kefa is eating today, I can tell you that they're going to carry on into the generations of his family. His daughter, I don't know the name of his daughter. His daughter's going to benefit, blessed from that. His wife's going to be blessed from that. And my goodness, and children's children are going to be blessed from that. Angela, beautiful name, Angel. So her name is Angela. Angela, Shabbat Shalom and good morning to you. So Angela's going to be blessed from that. And I was going to speak to Rabbi Kefa about Angela as well, but I will speak to him another time regards her education. So having said that, it is very important that you understand that the words that flow out from the Kohen's gate are the words that God has ordained. You're going to have to understand that statement. I say it with respect, full respect, that these are words of God that come out. I don't speak them out of vanity. I don't speak them because they make you feel good or because they'll tickle your ears. No, these are God's words, and they are mighty, mighty powerful. Hugely powerful words. And God will make them to pass. And this is something to be behold, and this is something to be understood. And so we move forward. And so we see that we have 7 beautiful promises given to Abraham. And they're given in symbol form. Note, they're given in symbol form. Not, God doesn't come to Abraham and says, Abraham doesn't go to God and says, God, show me how this is going to come to pass. And God says, look at the stars. A symbol, right? He shows them a symbol. These are your descendants. Go count them. Abraham can't count the stars. But he says Abraham believed God. If Abraham believed God, you need to believe what I'm telling you. You are that descendant. And your descendants are in those stars. So next time you look at the sky, tell yourself that my descendants are there, because I am Abraham's descendant. That's immensely powerful, because that means that you have your families there. It's very humbling to know that we are connected to a mighty man from the past, our forefather. Very humbling experience, by the way. So we need to humble ourselves, knowing that God is watching over us. Now I want to take you to something else. I want to take you to the Master Jesus' words. In Matthew chapter 7 verse 1, he says, "Do not judge that you not be judged." That is a very important word. A lot of us today, and I'm probably guilty of that in the past, a lot of us today, we do this. We go around judging people. Oh, Mr. Trump didn't do this right. Oh, he should have done it this way. We have a lot of these people critical. I sometimes put the news on and all I hear is critique. CNN probably, I think CNN is probably one of the channels that all I hear about on CNN is usually critique of the president. Always critiquing the president's words. And probably some other channels do it too. But, that seems to be number one channel out there, critiquing him. Always critiquing his statements. I think that we need to get away from that. We need to get away. You can't turn around and tell me that it's okay to critique people. Because it's not okay, by the way. Because if your energy is spent entire day of your energy is spent critiquing others, what are you doing for yourself? You see, for CNN, they are making money out of that critique. They are selling it to people. And they got, people like them who are also critiquing the president. But where does it get to you and me? Let's look at let's bring it home. Let's bring it right home. If the president does something, if the president goes today and plays golf, because the president has golf, he likes golf and he goes and plays golf over the weekend. Let's say the president goes today and plays golf, and everybody on CNN is critiquing the president that he was so busy playing golf that he didn't have time to go and do this. Where does it get you and me today? How does that help you, and how does that help my life? If the president goes plays golf and doesn't do something that the news media feels he should go and do first, how does it help you and me? It doesn't help you and me in any particular way. It doesn't negate us, and it doesn't it doesn't help us. In other words, it's an irrelevant point. It's irrelevant in your and my life. What is important in your and my life today is not where the president is playing golf. That is not important. What is important in your and my life is that your wife will be getting up in the morning, and assuming it's a normal day, she'll be saying, "Honey, what are we going to have for breakfast today?" That's the first question you're going to hear from your wife. She's going to ask you, "What would you like for breakfast today?" That's relevant. And you might turn around and say, "I like eggs," or "I like cornflakes," or "I like coffee," or whatever it is you like. You tell your spouse, and she makes it for you. That's relevant. So what is relevant in the house? Is it relevant that we discuss President Trump playing golf? Or is it relevant that I spend a few moments of my life discussing with my wife how we should live and what we should do? I think that statement is a very weighty statement, but I don't think many people understood this. So you need to go back and address that statement I just gave you. This is why I said, listen to this recording 10 times over, 50 times over. You'll get immensely blessed by it, because you will follow it and you will be blessed by it. And if you apply it to your life, my goodness, the doors will open wide. Doors will open wide and you'll be blessed. Blessed beyond your belief. So having said that, this is very important that we judge not other people. We judge not other people. We must reserve that for God only. From today, hence onwards, remember this. Judgment only belongs to God. And you need to remember that we are not here as judges and juries. Yes, I might sit in the seat of a judge. Yes, there's a dispute. I might be called forth to do a decision or make a statement or help somebody in their quest for truth or whatever. That is true. That might happen. But I am not in a position that God is. So judgment is only for God. What happens to our life when we die or what doesn't happen is God's domain. We need to let God do that. That's God's justice. Whether our president, whether he plays golf today or whether he sits with his wife eating cheesecake, that is his prerogative, his personal life. It's nothing to do with me. I should be happy for him. If he's spending time with his family, I should be happy for him. Because, hey, we have a great president. He spends time with his family. He's not running around all over the 10-4 window. So this is very important to understand that point. That we need to bring it home. We need to bring it home to us, where it matters to us. And we need to remember what God said. And we need to remember the words of the very master that we served, judge not, that you not be judged. And that will help you a lot. As going forward in your lives, carry that in your lives. Carry it as a motto. That you never do that. Never side with people. If you have 10 people and 9 people are willing to stone somebody, you walk away from that. I'm not going to stone that person. Judgment is not in my hand. I want you to remember that. Remember it. It will help you in your life, because don't think stoning means literal. Stoning means figurative. If 9 people are criticizing one person, you need to be out of that criticism. You shouldn't be the 10th person saying, yeah, she is like that, yeah, he is like that. You need to be out of that. You need to bring sense into that discussion. And you need to say, no, that person may have their shortfall, but actually they have some very good points too. This is how you can bring the discussion to a head. And you can make it better. You can stop the slander. You can stop the tale-bearing just by those statements. Because don't always look at the people's mistakes. Look at the good they do. Always look at the good they do, and you will benefit out of that immensely. It will be immense blessing to you once you do that. I was reading a statement, and in that statement I was reading about Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie was the person who owned U.S. Steel. He started it basically with Charles Schwab, and he was one of the richest men in his time. Before Rockefeller, he was the richest man. And Andrew Carnegie paid $1 million to Charles Schwab, who was around 38 years old. He appointed him and paid him $1 million a year, which was a lot of money in the 1920s time period. It was a lot of money. And he paid him that, and somebody asked him, why do you pay this man such a high salary? And you know what his response was? And they asked Charles Schwab that why does he pay you such a high salary? And the response was that not because I'm the most skilled person, not because I'm the best person to know about the steel industry, because Charles Schwab's own words were that there are many other people who know the steel industry better than me. There are many other people better than me. The reason why I get this salary is because I'm a people's person. That was an immensely important statement. Charles Schwab says, I'm a people's person, and I know how to make people enthusiastic, and I know how to make people happy, lift them up. He said, I know how to do that. Because I know how to do that, that's why Andrew Carnegie pays me this money. And this is very important. I want to read a statement to you, and you like this statement. This is the statement of a Mexican hero general. His name is Alvaro, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's Alvaro Obregón. Alvaro Obregón is somebody, a famous general of Mexico. His bust is out in one of those museums down there. in Mexico, and this is his statement. He said, "Don't be afraid of enemies who attack you. Be afraid of the friends who flatter you." Don't be afraid of the enemies who attack you. Be afraid of the friends who flatter you. In other words, when you are going to be enthusiastic, when you're going to be encouraging other people, don't flatter them. Be truthful and truthfully encourage them. Flattery, as you know, is deceitful. You can't just go around flattering people, and that's terrible, deceitful. And people can see through flattery. But if you encourage people rightfully, then they will see that also, and they'll be happy that you did that. This is why it's very important that we don't go around flattery, but we go around being enthusiastic and lifting people up. Years ago, when I first started my job, and I worked in this factory, the injection molding factory, and I had a boss over there. I had a supervisor. His name was Bob. Beautiful man. He's a white guy, lovely British guy. I love him to this day. Why? Because the way he spoke to me. He spoke so nicely to me. He would say to me, he would tell me to operate a particular machine, and he will say to me in such a way that there's no way I can say no to that. He spoke in such a way that there's no way I will say no, I don't want to do that machine because it's manual or it's automatic or it's got leaking, plastic coming out of it. I wouldn't say that, because his way of speaking was immensely beautiful. It's a really nice way of saying things. And that's very important. It's very important how we speak to other people. Because how you speak to people, you can either lift them up or you can tear them down. It's very important that we speak to people nicely. And this is what I saw in Bob. Bob spoke to people, not just to me, he spoke to other people really nicely. And at that time, when I started to study, and I said to Bob, Bob, I'm studying and I'm going to get a better job and I'm going to be in a better position. And you know what Bob told me? This is what Bob told me. Bob said to me, "I see you already there. You're going to make it. Because you're not like everybody else." This is Bob's words. And I was probably at that time, maybe, I don't know, I was 21 or something. And Bob said this to me. He said, "You are already there." He said, "Sir, you're already there. You're going to make it. Because I don't see you over here either." And years later, listen to this. Years later, Bob had a wife, and they lived out of town. And I only saw them, I only saw him with his wife a couple of times, 2-3 times during my whole tenure when I lived over there. And once I saw Bob, he was with his wife, and I said to Bob, "How are you?" And that company had shut down, and I had, we had all moved on, and I had my corporate job, and I came to Bob and I said, "Bob, how are you?" And Bob was very nice, very happy to meet me, shook hands with me with a big smile, and he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing great." I said, "Do you remember I told you years ago that I'm going to be in a great job one day?" And he said, "Yeah, I remember that." And he said, "You made it, right?" I said, "Yes." I said, "I have that job today." He said, "I knew it." He said, "I knew that you're going to make it." So these are the kind of people that help lift you up. You don't want to be around negative people, but learn how you speak to people. If you can make your speech good, then you will do great. And this is what was said about Charles Schwab. This is what Charles Schwab said. When Charles Schwab was asked about his salary and why are you being paid so high in your time, and how come everybody else that's out there, the highest they can reach is $100,000, and how can you reach $1 million? Charles Schwab said, "I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm amongst my people." This is what Charles Schwab said. He said, "I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people." He said, "The greatest asset I possess, and the way to develop the best that is in a person, is by appreciation and encouragement." Appreciation and encouragement. So it says, there is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticism from superiors. Years ago, I remember this comment, because sometimes people will say something and you'll remember it for the rest of your life. I remember the first time I went to university. I wanted to enroll in university, and I went to see the head of the IT department. Here was this young man, I was about 28 years old, and I was coming into university a little late than other people, but I said to myself, it doesn't matter, I'm going to still make it, and I'm going to be ahead of the pack. I said that to myself, I'm going to be ahead of the pack, I'm going to make it, I'm going forward. So I went to the university. Everybody else was telling me, no, you're too old, you can't go to high school now, you can't go to university, you won't get the grant, you won't be able to pay the fees. I said, not a problem, I'm going to go to university. So God will take care of it. So I went to university. I meet the head of IT department. His name is Jeff Lode. Beautiful, handsome guy, a beautiful man, a very beautiful character as well. Beautiful character. You know what he said to me? I said to him, I said, Jeff, may I ask you a question? He said, sure. I said, what can I do once I do this course? What can I actually do? And he said to me, at that time, he referred to me as Muhammad, because that was my name at the time. He said, Muhammad, he said, the world will be your oyster. Those words etch into my mind, and I remember those words even today. And I remember his name, Jeff Lode. Jeff Lode, the head of the IT department, turned around and said to me, the world will be your oyster. And those words are true. They are true today, by the way. Because after doing that course, engineering course that I did, and after going through the things that I went through, I ended up with 100,000 plus job working in England. And I remember the words of Jeff, that the world will be your oyster, and the world indeed is my oyster. Not just was, indeed is my oyster. Why? Because I serve the great God of Abraham. That's why. Because he was always behind me. Only I didn't know it at that time, but now I know it. So it's very important to know who's behind you, not who's in front of you. In front of you might be an obstacle. Behind you is your support. My support was the God of Israel. Because he was my support, I was going to get there no matter what. And I knew that God would support me, and I just needed to go forward. So it's very important to understand that. Moving forward, I want to bring you to the words of the Messiah, Jesus of Nazareth. He was on the Mount of Olives, and he was in the temple. He came to the temple. It says in verse 2, and early in the morning he came into the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple, and all the people came to him and sat down, and he taught them. And the experts in the Torah and the Pharisees brought to him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst, they say to him, Rabbi, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now, Moshe in the Torah commanded us that such should be stoned. But what do you say? This they said, testing him, that they might accuse him. But Yehoshua stooped down, and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said to them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even to the last. And Yehoshua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Yehoshua had lifted up himself, and saw none but the woman, he said to her, Woman, where are your accusers? Has no man condemned you? She said, No man, Master. And Yehoshua said to her, Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. So what are the key takeaways in this story? Well, the key takeaways are this, that in life there are going to be many people who consider themselves experts in one thing or another. And they're going to come to you, and they're going to condemn somebody, and they're going to make judgment calls, and they're going to ask you to be part and parcel of their judgment. So what does the Master Yeshua do? And he says to them, he doesn't listen to them. What does the scripture say? Scripture says that he stooped down and wrote with his finger, and as though he heard them not. He didn't hear them. In other words, this is chapter 8, by the way, John chapter 8, and he didn't hear them. In other words, he refused to hear them. When people speak negative words to you, shut your ears. Refuse to hear it. Pretend like you never heard anything. That is a key takeaway in this. And refuse to judge people. Because judgment does not belong to us. As I said earlier, judgment belongs to only one person. Only one. The infinite intelligence in the universe, the God that we serve. That's where judgment belongs. So when people come to you and say to you, such and such Brenda did this, and she, we saw her in adultery case, we saw her with such and such, and, I saw her come out of the hotel, and she was with this man, and she's doing this behind the back of so and so. You are to not to judge. You are to shut your ears. You are to pretend you didn't even hear it. That is what you're supposed to do. And that is a righteous thing to do. Because judgment only belongs to God. What Brenda does in her private life, who she goes with and what hotel she stays, and Brenda is a made up name, by the way, and if your name is Brenda, it's no offense to you, that it doesn't matter what Brenda does. It doesn't matter if Brenda was married, it doesn't matter if she is single, it doesn't matter if she is divorced, it doesn't matter. What Brenda does in her life is her prerogative. I have no part in judging Brenda. It's not going to make me big. It's not going to make me great by judging Brenda. But what I must do is focus on where God wants me. And where does God want me? And let me remind you where God wants you as well. This is where God wants you. I'm a mighty man. Remember what he said to Gideon. Gideon saw himself as a lowly man. Oh, poor me, I'm really the lowest of the sons of my father. I'm really the poorest one. And what did the angel of the Lord say to him? You're a mighty man. You're a champion. So you tell yourself, I'm a mighty man. I'm a blessing to others. God will make my name great. I'll be an increase to other people. Through me, God will bless many people. If anyone curses me, God will curse him. Through me, many families of the earth will be blessed. These are the things you should be telling yourself every day. Word it to the way you want to word it. The way it best fits your description. Whether you're a man or a woman. Word it the way you want to word it. Recite it. Say it daily. And make it part of your life. And with that, I leave you with a blessed Shabbat. I bid you well. Have a great Shabbat and a great week ahead. Shabbat Shalom. Shalom Shalom. Over to you, Rabbi Kefa.
Chadasha Kohen, if I can be heard, can I get a one? I want to do a mic check, make sure everybody's with me. We're on the same boat, Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth, and Tadaf, all of you who are new to the room, maybe this is your first, second time, maybe even third time. You haven't acknowledged yourself. Let us know where you're dispersed in the nations. I would encourage you to do so. I welcome all newcomers, old comers. We all do, because this is just our nature to be to have an open door policy and to be open to all people. I think it's very important. I was in bed, just thinking about last night, last couple of nights, and just thinking about my life and how my life has truly been, it's been a paradigm shift for me personally, as I come into the knowledge of who God really is and who His people really are, and I'm one of those persons, and just the relationships that have been built in my life, especially with the Kohen, is really, I'm really humbled and just in amazement and in awe of the great workings that I've seen the God of Israel do in my life through the son of Aaron. And I think it's important for you to understand that, just like we'll read here in a minute in this Parsha is jam-packed with just a lot of great understanding and a lot of golden nuggets that many miss, and we can basically teach and talk about this for a very long period of time. But I think what's pertinent and paramount, as a lot of you have come out of backgrounds where you've read the Bible up and down, as a Christian, a thing of ours to go through the Bible as a family. My father would read the Bible to us, and we'd go through the Bible. How many of you know what I mean? They have like a little schedule. Christians have a little schedule where you can go through the Bible within a year. And my father would follow that religiously. We would, regardless of what was going on, we had time to where we all sat down as a family, and he would read to us from the Bible, to where we would read the Bible in a whole year. But in reading that, I was, yeah, what good is reading the Bible if it's not real to you? What a lecture that would be. What good is reading the Bible when the Bible doesn't become real to you? And it's and a lot of things, HaKohen, you must understand, Torah is not just about some rote words that you read from a Bible like some kind of fairy tale story. It's more than that. It's your life, and it's your livelihood. The son of Aaron teaches you how to live in 2018. How many of you know it's very important that we know how to live in 2018 according to the God standard? This is what's so important, and yet so many people miss it. They see God relationship as something very far. But what you must understand is just God is very near to us. The creator of the heaven and universe, he's very near to us, and he's concerned about how we live. I mean, our very livelihood. If you guys can take that to head and heart, you will go very far. But what's important is that you get that instruction from God himself. And you'll get it through, not him himself, but you'll get it through his ambassadors, through the go-betweeners, the in-betweeners, and that's the sons of Aaron. And once you begin to develop that relationship, because a relationship, how many of you understand, it's a two-way street. You see, you can't have a relationship just one-way street, because that relationship will not get you anywhere. You'll go in only one direction. But, in this life, how many of you know you can go left, you can go right, you can go up, you can go down? There's so many different avenues and turns and twists and roads and in paths and in highways and in byways that can be traveled upon. And this is why the importance of going in both directions is so very important. But yet when we look at our relationship, a lot of times it's just only one way, my way or the highway. How many of you have been in a relationship like that, to where it's one party will say, oh, it's my way or the highway, there's no bending, there's no going left or right, there's no going east to the west, there's only north and south. I tell you, Abraham, our father Abraham, it's so much understanding. And if you notice the Torah, even in this Parsha, the God of Israel, Elohim, talks to, he describes in his description and depiction of Abraham's journey and his life and the blessings. He tells Abraham not to look north and south, not to look east and west, but to look north, south, east, and west. Baruch Hashem, Master Yeshua, Master to the Elohim, to Master Yahweh, for giving us these great descriptions that our world is not limited to one direction. It's not limited to two directions. We're multifaceted, multi-purpose type individuals and people that's supposed to be open into a circular, into a world that's not limited to and segregated upon a class, a color, a character. We're to be open to all. And I think it's very important that we examine relationships. This is the key. Abraham was kind. He was a kind-hearted, loving man to all people. He developed what? You can't be kind by yourself. He developed relationships with other folks, other people. This made him a great man. And if you note, if you look at those that are people today in society that are happy, maybe even those that are wealthy, I can tell you a majority of them, people that are successful. How many of you know, HaKohen was talking about, he's reading these books on, wealthy people, people that are successful, and their mindset, their character makeup. Can anybody tell me today, 2018, as we look at October 20th in 2018, who is the most wealthiest person in the world? Anybody know? To God, honey. Does anybody know? Thank you, honey. Anybody know who's the wealthiest? You may need to Google it for a minute. There you go, Eddie's. Mr. Jeff Bezos himself. I would encourage you all to read books on him and see where he came from, his beginnings, and how did he get to where he is today. But I will tell you this: man is not a man of just sitting on his money. He has other aspirations, other dreams, other goals. But I've seen this man in interviews several times. And I want to see if he did a TED Talk yet, because I like to listen to his TED Talk. How many of you listen to TED Talks? I would encourage you to do that. You'll find out a lot of interesting things about people listening to TED Talks. I mean, it's a great thing to do. So you can understand the character of people. Some of you say, well, I don't listen to that because, that Gentiles. Again, you need to alleviate and rid yourself of Gentile-itis, inflammation of a Gentile. To where, if I touch a Gentile, I will become inflamed and I will get this disease and I won't be able to serve God. You need to rid yourself of that disease of Gentile-itis. And understand at the end of the day that these are human beings. Abraham didn't have Gentile-itis. Abraham didn't have, since these people don't believe the way I believe, then I will close my door to them. Abraham had doors open north, south, east, and west. We need to learn from this. We really need to learn from this. But, Jeff Bezos, I've seen him in talks and in interviews several times on television. And I tell you, this man is just a real humble man that has great aspirations, not for himself. And that he has built many great relationships. That has taken him, to places, that he probably never could imagine, or even he did imagine himself being in this place. Maybe on his war room board he put, I want to be the richest man in the world. And not only did he tell himself that every day, but maybe, of course he backed it up with action for sure. Maybe he was one of less talk and more action. Because Hokmah told me this, several years ago, maybe a year or two ago. She began to tell me you need to do less talk and more action. Less talking. And now I hear it again from my Kohen, just this morning. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. So relationships. Now, relationships, you can't build a relationship overnight. I was also listening to the news in passing, and I heard them say that here in North America, that these dating sites, that there's so much money, and yeah, I can agree with them because I used to be on these dating sites. How many of you have ever tried any of these dating sites? Because there's so many of them. They were talking about these dating sites here in North America and how they are such money makers. They're making billions of dollars off of these dating sites, just matching up people. And at the end of the day, what is a dating site? Now, some of you may be shy and say, well, Rabbi Kefa, I used it, but I'm shy to say it. Don't be shy. I use these dating sites. I use them. Why? It's because that's another great avenue. That's another great avenue that you can use to what? Build a relationship or foster or nurture some kind of relationship on any kind of level. You see, because how are you going to be a student of nature just by yourself, with yourself, and for yourself, and all about yourself? Remember, as people of the books, our goal is not to become selfish, but selfless. Baruch Hashem, Master Yeshua, Master Jesus of Nazareth. You can take that to the bank. The more you rid yourself of self and become selfless instead of selfish, my goodness, the Master, Jesus of Nazareth, can take you and raise you to points on high. And Abraham was a master at this, of being selfless and not being selfish. How many of you know exactly what I'm talking about? You see, because especially here in North America, they'll condition you to be selfish. You see, to attain wealth, to get you have to cut out the to get to the top of the ladder, you have to take many people out. They'll teach you this kind of mentality. You'll be conditioned as a little baby to be brought up this way. is that you always have to finish first. They start with little games the way, oh, I must win the race. Or, oh, we must win the game. I will watch these little children around here in San Antonio. I tell you what, here in Texas, football is king. And I don't mean that European football. I mean the pigskin football. Football is king in Texas. Boy, I see these little pee-wee children playing pee-wee football. They lose the game, and all of a sudden they're crying, and their emotions are just like off the charts because they lost, and they throwing their helmet on the ground because we didn't win the game. But I'm going to tell you something about successful people. Because I learned this from my Kohen. You see, I like to, I'm not on the level of a Kohen. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and I don't proclaim to be a Kohen. I'm from the tribe of Judah, and I'm happy with my role and my place where I'm at, and I'm happy and I'm going to stay humble. But I'll tell you something. When you look at leaders and you learn about these people that are successful in life, these people that have made it in life, you know, one of the things that they'll tell you is that you have to have, you have to have this humility factor about you. To where you know, although you're being raised up, these people have the characteristics of always being humble people. Keeping themselves lowly, meek, not patting themselves on the back, not trying to lift themselves up and one up the next person. But you know what they'll say? They'll say this in this Shahar. And I hear it time and time again when I listen to and read books on successful people. They'll say this: those that really want to be successful, to win in life, you have to learn how to lose. Think about that. To win in life, to be successful, you have to learn how to lose. This is a profound statement. How many of you have taken loss in life? This is when you really become successful, is that you learn how to lose. But I see these little pee-wee children. They're running around here. They're running around here, and they lose the game, and they just get, they feel like it's the end of the world just because you lost. You don't understand that even in losing, you actually win. But people can't see that because they look at the big L. Oh, I lost. But you don't understand that you won. You gained experience. You got better at your position on the football pitch, or the football field, as they call it here in North America. You have to become masters of losing. This is when you become experienced and you become very successful at whatever you're trying to do. Let's just talk about the relationship factor, because I think that's very important. How many of you have lost in a relationship? Let me put up some. I have lost in some relationships. I have lost in some relationships. But in those relationships that I lost, I've gained so much. I've gained. Because now, and I never gave up on relationship, and I never will. I'll never give up on relationship. Because our relationships can always get what? They can get better, they can get sweeter, they can get deeper. I love in Hakohen is right when he talks about what's really important in life. And your family is what is really important. And the Ruach HaKadosh, the Imchokmah, the Holy Spirit, for many years, for me it's been for the past 4 years, through the Kohen as well, has really been stressing the fact that through the Kohen that to focus on the family. And how many of you know within the family there's relationships on many different levels? But I love having conversations with my wife, and even on those dating sites. When I was on those dating sites, I love to just have conversations with a woman. Because how many of you know God speaks through women sometimes? Some of you miss it, and it'll go over your head. But revelation will come through a woman. And many folks will miss their revelation. Many men will miss it. They'll miss it. And God is speaking to them. And that's ignored because the man is, you know why? Because he gets so haughty. He puts himself in such a high position. And he doesn't stay humble to hear the words of the Imchokmah, the Ruach HaKadosh, the set-apart spirit, Mother Wisdom, trying to impart wisdom to you and give you instruction and give you guidance, and you miss it because you're so on your high horse. This is what Western call ride 'em high. Riding high, my goodness. Because you're riding so high. And you haven't developed your character of humbleness, of meekness, of keeping yourself low. No, because you must be haughty. You must be up here. So you miss the instruction. You miss the very words that have come from a woman sometimes. You need to pay attention to all the words that come from a woman. Utilize them, men, in your decision-making processes. And you'll do yourself a great service. Then you see, if you exclude the words of a woman, especially the ones that are close to you, it'll affect your decision-making process. It's because you're eliminating a key factor that needs to be involved when you're throwing everything into the pot of decision. You see, because without that woman's, her ingredients in the decision pot, then you'll find yourself making indecision. You'll find yourself second guessing, like, oh man, you can't make a firm judgment or a firm decision in the direction that you need to go because there's a lot of indecision. Why? It's because you left out a key ingredient into the recipe, into the pot of wisdom, of understanding, you see. Torah 1:3 says, two men put their insecurities into relationship. Too many men, I guess, put their insecurities into relationship. Well, it can go both ways. Too many men, too many women as well. It's because you know what they end up doing? We call that bringing in the baggage from the past experiences or past relationships. And that's not fair to either side, right? I'm telling you, you want to learn about relationships, you send the Kohen, the son of Aaron, you send him an email. He'll help you with your relationships. Some of you you don't even know how to have relationships because you're inexperienced. Because you've been anti-socialites. You don't socialize. You don't like. How many people at one time that was you? You've been the type of person where you don't like. You never like to socialize with people. You never like to talk to people. That you were just brought up that way. Maybe your daddy didn't talk to people. Your mama did. You just weren't brought up that way. So you need to be taught these things. These things need to be taught to you. You're a child of Abraham. And believe me, Abraham in our time, in today's time, would be considered a Facebook, a Pow Talk, all rolled up into one. Why? It's because he had an open door policy. He welcomed anybody. You welcome. He would talk to anybody, you see. And we need to get that way. Don't just see. Now, I want you to see the importance of relationship. And that relationships happen at many different levels. But let's face it, at the end of the day, when we get to the meat and potatoes of relationship, isn't that what a family is? Relationship, right? On many different levels. Let's just look at Jacob. Let's look at Israel. Let's look at Jacob. At the end of the day, our history is based on what? Relationships as descendants of the Hebrews. As those stars of Abraham. It's all about relationship when you look at things at the end of the day. It's all about relationship. And so we must understand that in relationship, there are going to be ups and downs. Somebody talked about balance. I believe that's such a great word. Balance. Is that we all must have balance in life, you see. And I'm a firm believer is that your best connections. Now, how many of you in this room right now are in a relationship? Put up a capital R right now. If you're in a relationship, I'm not saying you don't have to be married, but you're in a relationship with the opposite sex, a man and a woman. You're in some kind of relationship. If that's you, just put up an R so I feel like I'm not talking to myself. Thank you. Chadasha for that. Now, I was discussing this with my wife and daughter. You see, I have there are two women in my life. Three counting my wife. The three most important women in my life. Count my mama. Got to throw mama in the mix. Mama's number one. And this discussion is very important. discussion. Because I find that in a relationship, is that you don't go try to find a person that's just like you. But the better relationships, I can talk from my life personally, have those that have been polar opposite to me. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Has just been totally left field. Maybe I'm right and they're left. And that relationship has been the best relationship. But when you go out and try to find someone just like you that likes everything that you like, I found in my experience those relationships have been boring. How many of you know what I'm talking about? And for my family, I was sitting down with the two women in my life here and my wife, and I sat down and talked to them, and I explained it to them like a magnet. Like when you take a magnet and you put a positive and a positive side together, you try to put them together, what happens with that magnet? And this is what I like about our history and the God that we serve, is that he gives you illustrations based on physical things. You know, how many people cannot see a star? How many people cannot see dirt? Yes, they repel. And I would encourage you to do this with your family as well. You take a magnet. Now, the object of a relationship, at the end of the day, what's the goal of a relationship? A relationship, the goal should be of a relationship is for that relationship to do what? To stick, to bind. Boom, right? Our books tell us, our history tells us, is that in a relationship we want to cling. Wow, what an awesome word to use in the American language. We want to cling. Or leave and what? Cleave to that man and that woman. My goodness, what a beautiful thing. So when you take that magnet and you put a positive side to the positive side, you'll find it very difficult to make them things cleave or cling together, bind, right? But what happens when you put a positive and a negative together? My goodness, they stick. You know, and depending on how strong your magnet is, my goodness, they attract, right? Torah 1:3 says the yin and the yang. This is the balance of life. So I would encourage you in your relationships, especially when it comes to the level of building tents and establishing a tent, which we'll talk about in a minute, which I think is quite relevant to what we're talking about now. Is this fact here is that, you know, look for someone that doesn't maybe agree with you, that doesn't like what you like, that don't like that vegetable that you like. Torah 1:3 says, I'm attracted to nerds, and I'm completely the opposite. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. Are there any nerds in the house? Any Steve Urkels? You see? Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. I think that's great. I think that's great. I'm happy for you. Torah 1:3. So find that person that, you know, too many times we muck up on relationships is because we're looking for someone that's just like us. Has anybody been there besides me? We're looking for someone to eat like us, talk like us, walk like us, like the same color. You know, you have to have, you know, to spit the mini-me of yourself. When that just doesn't work. One of yourself is enough to really explore, to really have a fullness of life. A fullness of life. That the Master, Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, that he wanted for all of creation, is that you have to have that, the good with the bad, the happy with the sad. There has to be that balance. The positive with the negative. This is what makes that binding so beautiful. And did not our father Abraham teach us in his life and how he lived is to bind together, is to come together, humanity to come together and not have Gentile-itis. Oh, because you don't follow the Torah, then I can't listen to you. Oh, because you have this way of thinking and understanding, I can't listen to you. I can't help you. I cannot assist you. You see? Thank God that people are not like that today. Thank God that people could come in and not be judgmental. Come into a relationship and not judge you just by what you say off the top, but will sit down and afford you the ability and afford you time to be able to really understand you before coming off and shooting off judgments at the hip. You're like a gunslinger. And you're just shooting off judgment. Boom, 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 boom. You see? It's the opposites that will attract in a relationship. I want you to see that. And I also want you to see something else about relationships that we're going to see here in this Torah. Because I'm not going to sit here and try to go through all of Parsha, because that's not fair. That's not fair to me. It's definitely not fair to you. You need to take some substance so you can go out and that you can begin to apply substance. The son of Aaron in his lecture, he gave you a lot of substance. Now you need to take that substance and put it into action. Go out and be able to apply it. Don't have a family, go out and get one. Adelia, I am so happy for you. I'm so happy for you that you understood that you've taken the substance and you went out and you ran with it. You actually got on a plane, left this country to go, find what you desire. You took that substance and you put faith into foot. That's what's great. You put your foot to your faith. Remarkable. Awesome. I am so happy for you. Because I know that same feeling. You know what's ahead for you is a great and happy family, and a great and happy future is ahead of you. Because at the end of the day, people will tell you this, and this is so true. When you have a happy wife, you have a happy life. Period. So the goal is to get what? A happy wife. And I'm telling you, to get that happy life, that's important. You see, because the God of Israel didn't put us down here to be solo and to have ladies' night, singles club. No. Relationship. You see, but we hop over so many different steps. And we say, oh, I have a relationship with God. You see, we jump over so many, you skip so many steps to get to the end game, which is a relationship with God. And in between that, you have horrible relationships with humans. But you sit here and tell me, world over, or I hear so many times as we get phone calls, oh, what's your goal? I say, well, what's your goal? Well, I want to have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with God. Well, how's your relationship with humans? Oh, I hate this person. I don't like this person because they this. This person did me wrong, so I'm not going to, oh my goodness. Wow. But you have a relationship with God. I'm trying to wrap my head around that to this day. But your life is in shambles, but you have a relationship with God. Why? It's because everyone in your life, in your world, that you live in this physical world, you've either shunned, you don't like, you're very judgmental of, but you have a relationship with God. Help me understand it. Help me help you. But I can't. Why? Because you're not willing to be helped, because your relationships with your neighbor are non-existent or are in disarray. Go back, and I would encourage you listening via YouTube, go back and examine Abraham. Abraham had many friends. Not that we're out here to, get many likes, because we're not saying that. Oh, well, if Abraham is Facebook today, then he would have so many likes and da-da-da, da-da-da. It's not about that. It's just about how you treat people regardless whether they give you a like or not. Whether they give you a thumbs up or the thumbs down. How are you going to treat them at the end of the day? The Master Yeshua, the Master Jesus of Nazareth, he talked about this. What good is it for you to treat those that treat you good? Where's the good in that? Oh, well, and yet, do you not know that that's the mindset of a lot of folks? Well, I will treat you good if you treat me good. I will do good to you if you do good to me. How many of you know people like that? And you'll see it. You'll see it, especially in their great holiday season that they're in right now. You know, the Gentiles are in their great holiday seasons. They're giving glory to God. They're giving glory to the Master, Jesus of Nazareth, through their celebrations that they have going on during this time of year. And maybe at one time or another you were in that same boat. I can remember buying Christmas presents. How many of you were like this? Somebody out the blue bought you a Christmas present and you didn't buy them one. And you felt that, okay, since they bought me a Christmas present, now I have to go buy them one. How many of you were like that? You're like, man, it's just something that just weighed upon you as they give you this gift. And yet, at the same time, you felt like, oh, man, I didn't get them anything. Let me run to Walmart and grab them something real quick. They're still on the shelf. That, because they gave me a gift, and I must reciprocate, and I must give them a gift as well. I guess you can call that, that's what, pressure, pure pressure, present pressure, the pressure of giving out presents. But it doesn't have to be that way. You know, the son of Aaron taught me this a long time ago. When you give out something, best you don't expect it back in return. Best you don't. And I tell you what, I've learned that lecture. I've learned that lesson in experience time and time again. And all of you need to learn that as well. Because you know what? At the end of the day, that can mess up a relationship. I'm telling you. How many of you know that? It could be money. It could be any kind of material thing. When you give somebody something and you don't get it back, do you know? How many of you have experienced that as well? Put up a capital E if that's you. Is that messed up a relationship? You're giving up your time. You're giving up your effort. That's why, many Gentiles will tell you this. Don't mix family and business together. And believe me, I've seen it in the Kohen's life as well. That came back and bit him in the backside. And he explained that experience to you a while back, maybe a couple of years ago. Is that you don't mix family and business, because that at the end of the day, what does that do? It'll mess up a relationship. So you have to be very careful. And what do you have to do? At the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to go into a relationship with an open mind, period. No strings attached. That's important to understand. When you go into whatever kind of relationship you're trying to build, yes, have your desires and your goals set. Yes, have some standards to yourself. But go into the relationship with an open mind. And you see, that makes you what? At the end of the day, it makes you non-judgmental, because you're not judging them. You're not judging them based on what they did in the past. You're not judging this new marriage based on what the old marriage did to you. That's not fair, and that's not right. Yet we see time and time again is that people do that. Stop bringing one's old baggage. Indeed, you must leave the baggage at the train station. Forget the luggage. That luggage is going to miss your next flight. And you're grateful for that. And that person is going to be grateful to that. But my goodness, telltale signs in a relationship that the ship may be going wrong, or that you may need to jump ship and find another one, is when they start saying things like this. Oh, my ex-husband cooked the eggs this way. Oh, my ex-husband did this for me in the morning. Oh, my ex-wife, she made these pancakes this way. And she put the butter on this side, on the right side, not the left. Oh, my ex-husband, my ex-wife did this. Well, let's not talk about that, because that's ex. Why are we still even dealing with ex? These are telltale signs of folks that bring the baggage with them. And you must look for these signs in a relationship. When they start talking about things outside of the now, outside of this new circle that we're trying to build together, you see, This is your early exit warning. Like that robot. Warning, Will Robinson, warning. Will Robinson, warning. Lost in Space. I love that television series. I love the movies too. Lost in Space. The robot's trying to warn you. That's your sign right there. When they start talking about the X factor. Oh, my ex did this. Well, I don't want to hear about your ex. Yeah, what did he say? There you go, Todd Walker. Danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger. That X factor. Oh, my ex did this. Ex did. Well, no, that's why he's your ex or she's your ex, because that's the past. Now we're trying to start something new. Let's talk about the now. Let's establish something together now. Let's establish some customs and traditions for us together now. Let's make anew. Let's make new. You see? Why are we even talking about X? You shouldn't even be bringing that up, by the way. So in your relationships going forward, don't you chalk it up as experience, but then what do? You take that experience and you bring it into your next relationship. I'm not saying don't bring the experience in. Definitely bring the experience baggage with you. So when they start talking XXX, you know, oh, from past experience, let me pull out the experience luggage here. From past experience, when so-and-so said so-and-so, this is what happened in the past. Because for us, as the children of Israel, as the descendants of the Hebrews, as sons and daughters of Abraham, we must examine the past, right? We must do this. We would be selling ourselves very short if we did not do this. I think this is so very important. Is that we must examine our books. We must examine the past. This is our foundation. This is how we truly begin to understand. Through our patriarchs of the past, through our matriarchs of the past, on how we need to live today here in the present. The present is such a great gift. This is why they call it present. But we were gifted the present. Why? Through the past. Through what was built in the past. Through what was established in the past. We just build upon it. That's all we have to do. But now that we're waking up, Israel's coming up out of her slumber. Israel is dispersed and scattered to the four corners of this earth. The very foundation for us to establish ourselves sailed to the shores of the coastal plains, the coastal front of Florida, and the sons of Aaron, to help us foundation building. And I tell you, what is said today may be said tomorrow, may be said the next day, and the next day. It may not happen today, may not happen tomorrow. It may take years. And Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth for that. And in saying that, before I get into the lecture, let's go over some riddles that I think are quite relevant to this time. Quite relevant, quite important, which I think we ought to kind of get into the riddles of the day. This first one, listen to this riddle. Put your Hebrew hats on. I don't have the voice of a person, but I can teach you far more. My knowledge is limited. I can never learn more. What am I? So what am I, riddle? I don't have the voice of a person, but I can teach you far more. My knowledge is limited. I can never learn more. What am I? So what am I? It's a riddle. Riddle me this. For those of you who like DC comics, I'm gonna read it one more time before I give out the answer. I don't have the voice of a person, but I can teach you far more. My knowledge is limited. I can never learn more. What am I? Your message says God, a God? No. That's the answer, J.B. Yasrael. A book. A book. Very good. Very good riddlers in the room. Very, very good. Now, I'll give you a little hint on this one before I read the riddle. This one's kind of scientific. Higher I rise with the help from the sun. From my glass cage, I can never run. What am I? Higher I rise. I'll give you even a better hint to this riddle. Think periodic table. Higher I rise with the help from the sun. From my glass cage, I can never run. What am I? Eddies, you're getting hot. We play hot and cold. You're getting hot. Eddies, you're getting hot. Think thermometer. Eddies is taking you there. There you go, Eddies. It's mercury. Good one, Eddies. Good one. Getting hot. We're going to play hot and cold. We're going to play hot and cold. Okay, listen to this one. This is quite interesting one. I see those. You put the Hebrew hat on, you can really begin to. This one is very pertinent. Very pertinent. This riddle is very pertinent today to us as the children of Israel. Sometimes I fly. Sometimes I drag on. One thing I know is that you'll never miss me. Is that you will miss me when I'm gone. What am I? Sometimes I fly. Sometimes I drag on. One thing I know is that you will miss me when I'm gone. What am I? This is a very good one. Very pertinent. There you go, Yael, woman of the tent. It's time. It's time. Sometimes I fly. Sometimes I drag on. One thing I know is that you'll miss me when I'm gone. What am I? And it's time. And I think that's so pertinent. Time. Relationships take what? They take time. Sometimes relationships drag on, and I think those kind of relationships are the relationships that are built. And this is when true love can be set in. When a relationship just drags on and on and on, I wouldn't use the word drag on, but I would use the word, marinades. When you have a relationship that marinates, it just sits and it just grows and it gets rooted. These are the relationships that down the road, my goodness, and I love to hear these great stories. I hear of people that's been married 30 years, 50 years, 60 years of marriage. These types of relationships are rooted. And, the winds come, the storms may blow, but guess what? The relationships don't move. The relationships don't move. And I think, time is a great ally to the children of Israel. You see, you need to use time as your friend and not your enemy. Time needs to become your ally. A lot of you are using time as your enemy. Oh, I don't know why this happened, why it took so long, blah, 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 blah. Cherish the moment. Stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. Foster and build your relationships over time, and you'll do yourself a great service. Time. But Rabbi, the first thing they say, but Rabbi, I don't have time. That's the worst thing you can ever say. Because you do have time. And it's all in how you perceive and look at life. A lot of folks look at life so negative and they don't even know it. But because of the things that they say, but they're ignorant to the fact of what they're even saying. That's why you have to be careful what you're saying. Like this one colleague of mine, you know what she always says? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I can stay with her 5 minutes and she'll say I'm sorry 15 times. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get to the door quick enough. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't clean up this mess over. Oh, I'm sorry. And then, I stopped her and I corrected her the other day. I said, look, quit saying that you're sorry. Apologize. Say, my apologies, but don't run around here saying I'm sorry, because guess what you're going to be? Lady, you're going to be sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was like, my goodness. It just, you know how you get to that point of pistivity? I got to that point. I was like, look, let me help you help yourself. Quit saying that you're sorry. I sat her down because, she's one of these women, and I think it's due to her past, maybe some past experiences in her life. But she don't look you in the eye. She's always looking down. And I stopped her. I set her down. I said, look. And she finally looked me in the eyes and said, look, quit saying that you're sorry. Just apologize. Say my apologies. But don't say you're sorry. Because guess what you're going to be? You're going to be sorry. And that's all she said. Sorry, 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 sorry. So I felt like it was time. It was that season to sit her down and to put her on the right path and correct her. And her language. You get tired of hearing you're sorry. And just like I told you, don't accept that sorriness. Don't put sorry on you. You apologize. Say, I apologize, and let's keep it moving. But, oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't do this. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Boy, that gets stale. I don't want to be sorry. I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to keep it moving. Again, the conditioning, and so many children are told this from a young age. You're going to be sorry. You just sorry. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, but you've heard it. I'm sorry. You just sorry. You sorry. You just got, no, I'm not sorry. No, I'll apologize to you. My apologies. But I'm not sorry. I'm not going to be sorry. I'm not going to fall in that trap. No. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be an overcomer. I'm a blessing. The Bible doesn't tell me nowhere that I'm sorry. So I'm not going to be sorry. We have to help those around us help themselves. It's a relationship I have with my colleague. So I want to build that relationship in a positive way. And she's the same colleague that said, oh, well, you always so positive. Well, yeah, Baruch Hashem. All praises be to Jesus. Jesus didn't want you down here sorry. Apologize and you keep it moving forward. Your little wristband says, what would Jesus do? Well, he wouldn't say I'm sorry. And he wouldn't be teaching you to, go around here being sorry for yourself. Oh, I'm just so sorry. I'm sorry. No, lady. No. Relationships. They happen on many levels. Many of you today in this room, you don't even understand you're in a relationship, but you are. Do you know you're in a relationship with the son of Aaron? You're in a relationship. How you foster that relationship, how you build and nurture that relationship is on you. But you're in a relationship. All of you here in this room right now, you're in a relationship right now. In this Power Talk room. You're in a relationship if you're listening on YouTube. You're in a relationship now. Now, let's get into this, because I'm not going to keep you long. Because let's talk more walk, right? Let's go out and do. Now, I want to talk about maybe three things. Three things I want to talk about with Abraham and with the pattern of the God that we serve. Because if we're offshoots of Abraham, then the Abraham effect applies to us. Because I can guarantee you, and Adelia is testimony and witness to this fact as well, is that sometimes that you must come out of your element. Coming out of your element is number one. Number two, PowerPoint is this. Make room. Im Chokmah told me this week. I'm driving in my car. You know what Im Chokmah says? She says, make room. Wow. And I'm thinking to myself, and I've been meditating on all this week. Make room. That's a heavy statement, isn't it? But do you know what the God of Israel was doing with Abraham was the same thing? Some of you may, if I ask you, what is going on here? What is the God of Israel doing with Abraham? And why Abraham? Why is God of Israel telling Abraham, get up, go, get up, move, get up, do this, time to journey, move, get up, get out. Get up and get out. Abraham was coming out of his element. Sometimes we get in a comfort zone and we have to guard ourselves against that. Comfort is good, but comfort has its place. Sometimes we become too comfortable, then what happens? When you become too comfortable, just like we're told in our history, we understand in our books, you get too comfortable, then you get fat. You see? Sometimes you get too comfortable and you get fat. And I'm not putting down or talking about fat people in any kind of way, but you can get spiritually fat. You can fat. Another word would be you become complacent. You become you become just happy with your situation. You don't have that drive anymore to want to do the necessaries that need to be done. Another word for fat could be synonymous with what? Lazy. You just want to be lazy. I'm not talking about just physical fat. No, don't go there. Well, Rabbi Cuba is picking on fat people. No, I'm not. And don't take it that way. But you could become lazy. You could become complacent. Where you just don't want to do. You see, what keeps a relationship strong? I'm going to tell you a key. And what keeps the relationship strong? You want to know a key? And this will work for you as well. You know what keeps a relationship strong? Is to do the things that you did at the beginning of the relationship. Is to continue to do the things you did at the very beginning of the relationship. That's what keeps a relationship strong. I hear from my colleagues all the time. Oh, he started out so good, but now he don't even do that. We used to go out, he used to take me out to dinner, now he don't take me out to dinner no more. Oh, he used to buy me little gifts just because, now he don't even do that anymore. The key to keeping a relationship strong is to continue to do the things that you did to build that relationship. Torah 1:3 says you should keep date night. Oh, indeed. If the relationship started with date night, then you should keep date night. Matter of fact, date night should even get better. Date night should continue. If you built that relationship on giving gifts, then guess what? You should continue to give gifts. It shouldn't start. It should actually get better. Not that the gifts need to get any better, bigger, or more expensive. Because I found with women that it's those little things that mean a lot. It's the little things. And even with myself, as a man, I can tell you, to me, it's those little things that make me even more loyal and actually love you. And you know what those little things are? When you just come in and you just bring me some tea. Just the way I like it. Like how Cohen said. Son of Aaron was talking about this. Just the way you like it. And you actually sit down and communicate. Me and my wife last night, we going through a cookbook. And I'm telling her, and you know what she asked me? She said, well, what are things you like? She's trying to find out about me so that she can go and cook these things and try to cook them. And we flipping through the book. Because she know I like chocolate, but she thought just because I like chocolate, that means I like chocolate cake, I like chocolate cookies. No, I only like chocolate. So again, she understood that. She like, wow, okay, so now you only like chocolate. I only like chocolate, not chocolate cake. Don't come chocolate cookies. I don't know. No, just give me some chocolate. Milk chocolate. See, because there's different types of chocolate. Dark chocolate. Torah 1:3 says, continue calling me honey and not other names. Oh my goodness, is that not a big one? First of all, we started out in the relationship. Oh, I was apple pie, apple dumpling, hunsy bunsy. Now I'm being called some other things outside of that are not uplifting and definitely not delicious. Like those delicious names like apple pie. Oh, you just my big cheesecake, honey bun. I don't know if you had the opportunity, Hakoin, to have a honey bun yet here in North America, but they're good. Honey buns. Might want to add that to your to the palate. Honey buns. Oh, Hunsy Bunsy, honey bun. They're very good here in America. Good pastry. Good to have with tea. coffee, whatever your preference is. But we get out, we stop doing these kind of things. And that just, that ruins a relationship. Because then the relationship, you stop doing those things that you did to get the woman, to get the man. And that's not fair. And those things don't have to be grandiose things. Because I tell you, it's the little things that mean so much. Scratching your back, rubbing, washing your back in the shower. Oh, what? Wow. To me, that's heavenly. That's that's Shema'im quality. And I've always dreamed it, and I always told myself that, man, I want my wife to wash my back when I'm in the shower. Sure enough, I didn't even tell her. She comes and does it. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. And all thanks to the Kohen for telling Rabbi Kefa to look to the east. And I looked directly east, and this woman came from straight east. You can't dream this stuff up, Miss Bahar. You don't dream this stuff up. Now, before we go any further with Abraham, I would be remiss in saying this. What's another thing that Abraham had that made him extraordinary and that it made him favored by the God of Israel? You see, because behind Abraham, yes, was good wives, but you know what else was behind Abraham? Can anybody tell me? And I texted this earlier during the Son of Aaron's lecture. Abraham had great teachers. Abraham had awesome teachers. Anybody know who taught Abraham? Abraham had awesome teachers, Mishpah. Anybody know who taught Abraham? Any takers? Torah won't tell you this. There you go, right there. There you go, right there. Thank you, ta-da for you. Noah, Shem. These were Abraham's teachers. What does that tell us? See, behind every great man is an awesome teacher. Oh, man. I don't want y'all to miss this, because this is not being taught world over. You guys are getting revelation for you students. Abraham had great teachers, Miss Bahar. I have a great teacher, and I am not ever going to leave him. My teacher has changed my life. The son of Aaron has changed my life. He has changed my life. He has taught me how to live and continues to teach me how to live and continues to change my life. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't require work, because I had to get on Tom and Jerry and get on that plane to go east. East didn't come to me. I had to go get east. Right, Adelia? Adelia know what I'm talking about. Husband didn't come in an Amazon box. Husband didn't come from a drone dropped at our house, Miss Bahar. You have to go get east. You have to go get husband. It reminds me of those caveman movies. You see those caveman? These caveman movies, what did they do to go get a wife? They took a big club, hit the wife upside the head, dragged her by the head to go get her. No, I'm not telling you that. Well, the rabbi's telling me that I need to go hit a wife. No, I'm not saying that. Don't go buy clubs, hitting people upside the head. No. And dragging them into your house. No, that's the wrong model. That's caveman model. We're not cavemen. We're descendants of Abraham. We're descendants of the Hebrews. We don't do that kind of stuff. No Flintstones here, even though I like watching old Freddie Flintstone, one of my favorite cartoons. The son of Aaron has taught Rabbi Kefa is teaching Rabbi Kefa how to live, and how to live that life more abundantly. Where did you hear that in? In our books, of course. How to have an abundant life. Yeah, people are living, but how many people are living abundantly? You see? And we must continue. We're trying. So again, getting back to the point of Abraham. Abraham had great teachers. Why do you think Abraham was so great? He was taught by great teachers. Teachers that knew God, that heard God's voice. You think about this going forward. I'm not going to keep you long today, but I want you to consider that. going forward. And there's a few PowerPoints that we're going to hit on before I roll out, before we end this lecture. And I'm going to talk about period of time as well. That's the third PowerPoint. First PowerPoint is that you must come out of your element. Second PowerPoint is that you must make room. You must make room, Mishpachah. Many of you don't understand that concept, but you must make room. That means, open door policy to all people. You make room for people's faults, for people's mishaps, for people's mistakes. You must make room for family. Did I not find that out? You see, because it's a big jump going from, single man to father, husband with a 14-year-old daughter. That's a big step. Boom, overnight. That happened, boom, from one day to the next. And Hokmah's been teaching me, I must make room. You must make room, Mishpachah. And even making room for children to come. You must make room. You must make room for those individuals. And so making room for Abraham was what? Oh, okay, yeah, you must make room, Abraham. And we see this pattern with Abraham, not only with his family, and he has to leave his country, his family, his very livelihood. He had to make room. Don't just see it as, he's having to go. No. This expansion now. Now you got to make room, Abraham. Father of many nations. Father as the stars and as the dirt of the ground and as the stars in the sky. You must make room. Wow. You must make room for that husband. You must make room for that wife. That entails more than just a statement, Mishpachah. That requires what? Preparation. You must prepare for these things. Yeah, the words sound lovely. Oh, make room. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps, Rabbi. That has nothing to do with it. Whether you get goosebumps or not is irrelevant. The question is application. You must make room. How many of you going through that process right now to where you make room? Now, in making room entails a lot, right? Because some things you're moving in, some things is moving out. And that goes to our third PowerPoint, is this one. Period of time. This is a big one. Sometimes a relationship is only established for a period of time. It has a beginning and it has an end. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mishpachah? There's a period of time for some relationships. Now, let's look at the relationship that Abraham had with Lot, his brother's son. Yes, they were together for a period of time, and then there had to be a breakup. Why? It's because, they both had to make room. They both had their own paths that they had to go in. But not to say that, again, that Lot was still not, Abraham's son or his brother's son. Still family, but you must make room. There has to be a separation sometimes to make room. You must make room. Some of you, that may be physically you have to make room. Some of you, emotionally, you need to make room. I would submit to you today, in all areas of your life, you must be conducive to making room. And then we go back to that third PowerPoint, is that sometimes a relationship is only for a period of time. And you gain the experience for that period of time, and then you move on. But a lot of times we wallow in that one relationship that was only meant to be for a period of time. How many of you realize that some relationships are eternal while others are only for a period of time? You must understand that revelation. I tell you, when you can begin to understand a relationship, that'll keep a lot of you from depression, from heart attack, from high blood pressure, because you understand you're not wallowing in that one relationship that was only meant for you to have for a period of time. Then you move on. Period of time type of relationships, they're good. You enjoy them for what they were for that period of time. You gain the experience for that period of time. But then you move on. And that's the biggest part. Many people can't move on from that, Mishpah. They can't move on from that. Come on in, Pharaoh. Pharaoh's coming in with his Shabbat snack. So they can't move on from that period of time. Torah 1:3 says, let go and let God. No, I would say this. You let go and you move on to the next one. To the next relationship. See, because regardless, God is going to be in the let go and the next one coming up. God is always, He's in it. He's omnipresent with His people Israel. The Master's always with us. If we're in the diaspora, guess where He's at? He's in the diaspora as well. Baruch Hashem. Master Jesus of Nazareth. I'm not going to sit here and read you, rote Torah. I'm going to give you the scenarios. You see them in black and white. Lot and Abraham had to separate. But here's where I really want to hone in on this point as well. And we must see this. Is that in that separation, we must look at this. I think it's very important. Yes, we know Abraham, you see. Okay, got it, Hakohi. We know Abraham. We know Abraham had he had to go deal with, some kings and Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth, for, the God of Israel going with him. And dealing with these kings and getting Lot back. But then we see the strife that occurs in chapter 13 of Genesis. Genesis chapter 13, starting at verse 6. Well, let's start at verse 5, because we see Lot also, who went with Abraham, had flocks and herds and tents. I read from the Hidden Truth We Break scrolls. If you don't have those scrolls, please get them. You can purchase them on Amazon. A great addition to your Bible study. Look at verse 6. Now the land was not able to support them. You see, there may come a time in your life where, you can't get no support. The land can't support you anymore. Now, I want you to look at this, and I'm not just talking about can't support you because the land can't support you because you're just in abundance with too much, and there's not enough room. When we talk about making room, the land couldn't support them. Now, that may occur. Let's look at this job-wise. Sometimes the land can't support you where you are. So what do you have to do? You're going to have to go out and make provisions for yourself. Let's finish reading that verse. Genesis chapter 13, verse 6. Now the land was not able to support them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great, and they could not dwell together. My goodness, look at verse 7. And then there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And the Kahani and the Perezi then dwelt in the land. So Abraham said to Lot, please, let there be no strife between you and me, between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Look at verse 9. Is it not the whole land before you? Now listen to this. Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go right. Or if you take the right, then I will go left. Look at that. Do you see the kind of character Abraham had? Abraham didn't say, okay, I get first dibs. I get first dibs. We got to separate, but I'm going to take I'm getting first dibs over here. I'm going to take my portion, and then you can have the scraps. No, see the character of Abraham? Abraham says, no, you get this. You take first pick. Remember we talked about humility and not haughtiness? The characteristic of Abraham. No, you take from, wherever direction you want to go, Lot, you take, and I'll take what's left. Do you see the mentality there? My goodness. My goodness. So when the land can no longer support you, look at that today in 2018's terms. Now, what can we say here? The land can no longer support you. Maybe you lost a job in a particular state, a particular city. If the land can no longer support you, then you may need to look, just like Abraham said. You may have to look in other directions to go and find opportunity for yourself. Is not the whole land before you? You may have to look left. You may have to look right. You may have to look to another city. You may have to look to another state to find a place where that land can support you, the way you can get on with life, the way you can be a blessing for yourself and your families. I think that's important. Very, very important to understand. Well, yes, we're together for a period of time, and then there has to be a time of separation. That happens. This is life. But what I want to explain to you today, because many of you, you've gone through all of these same situations before. But the key is to handle the situation the correct way. Is to be able to understand that, oh, we had this particular relationship for a period of time, for a season. They like to say season sometimes. Everything has a season, right? We're going into a new season now. That period of time is up. Can't take the time back, right? As we just heard in the riddle, time can't be taken back. Sometimes the time drags on. Sometimes it goes very quickly. You see? I'm telling you, now that my wife is here with me at home, man, my goodness, it's like time has sped up. I'm like, my goodness, it was just Monday. It's already Friday. Already. Time. Sometimes we hold relationships for a longer period of time. And those relationships can build and grow and get rooted. Roots can get deep, which is a good thing as well. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth, for that. Sometimes relationships will be lasting. Sometimes they will be shortened period of time. See it for what it is and keep it moving forward. And Baruch Hashem for those short relationships, because you gain some experience in a certain area that you need that experience, and then you move on. You found out a lot about yourself in this area, so when you go into the next one, you're even a better, stronger person in this way. You're even more humble and meek and happy and humble than you were before, because you gain that experience. And Baruch Hashem for it. You continue. You press on. You move forward. This is what it's about, Mishpahah. I tell you, awesome. Awesome. Now, you note, now we're going to take it back, we're going to step back a few. You note that in Genesis chapter 12, verse 9, Abraham begins his journey. He's just told by the master, Yahweh, Elohim. Yahweh tells him, look, okay, everything's promised to you. He hears all of these great things. But remember, we talked about yin and yang, good and bad, happy and sad. There's that balance in life. And then we see what happens. Look at Genesis chapter 12, verse 10. Now there was a famine in the land. My goodness, is that not going to happen? Seems like when everything's going well, boom, a famine kicks off. Famine can come in many forms in today's time. An event that can occur, that can, in your eyes, be perceived as something that's not good. But at the same time, we see that Abraham, he didn't sit there and throw a pity party and say, hey, we can't eat. No, he went to a place where he could eat. He went to Egypt. He said, okay, we can't eat here. Let's take the next step. Let's go somewhere where we can eat. That's important to understand. Some of you today may be saying, I can't eat where I'm at, Rabbi. Then you need to pack up, go somewhere where you can eat, where there's no famine, where there is abundance. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. That's for somebody, I don't know who, but where there is abundance. I think that's for everybody, by the way. If you find some place where you can't eat, then you need to go somewhere where you can eat. If you're in a place where you can't eat, then you need to find some place where you can eat, where you can be satisfied, where there is abundance, where you can establish your tent, because that's very important. Tent establishment is so very important. Make room, Mishpahah. Make room. I'm getting ready to close because I'm not going to keep you guys long. But another point that I'd like to make as well is this, that we need to see, that Torah tells us about, which I think is very important. Very, very important. Torah tells us in Genesis chapter 13, our history tells us, Genesis chapter 13 verse 2, that Abraham was very rich in livestock and in silver and gold. Look at verse 3. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to the place where her tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. Now, Hakohi puts a footnote here in the Hidden Truth Break Scrolls that I think is very, very pertinent. He says this. He says Sarah's tent here mentioned in the feminine. I'm sorry. Women's tent. Listen to this. Women's tents goes up first, and the home is run by the woman or the wives. Let's just say by the woman in 2018. Women's tents goes up first. And the home is run by the woman, by the wife. The idea or the point that I want you to see here is this. Relationships are important, yes. We must establish homes, yes. But here's the kicker. A home, in our history, in our way of thinking as descendants of the Hebrews, as children of Israel, a home is not a home until the woman is in it. And this has been taught over, and I'm going to continue to teach it. Is that, I realize this myself, is that for some of us, right now, we're just living in a house. It's not a home. It's just a house. Why is it just a house, Rabbi? It's because there's no woman in it. There's no wife. You see, a house doesn't become a home until the woman is in it. And note that the Torah says that, no, not Abraham put up his tent, but Abraham put up his wife's tent first. Sarah's tent went up. It's because that's when a house becomes a home. And I know a lot of you right now are in the process of getting a home, but right now, let's just face it, you live in a house. And a house is not a home. Luther Vandross sings that song. I like that song. And a house is not a home until the woman is in it. That's pivotal. That's key. You must establish your tent. But a tent is just a tent until the woman is in it. And then that tent becomes a house, the tent becomes a home. For many, you just have a tent. Don't be happy with just a tent. That's not God's intent for you just to have a tent. He wants you to have a house. He wants you to have a home. Period. That's important to note in your journey, in your sojourning, because we're all doing that. Many still want to journey and do this by themselves. You want to go on this journey by yourself, and I say best endeavors to you. But for others, as we look at ourselves, we want to look at the past and how our patriarchs lived, how our matriarchs lived, and we want to replicate that because the pattern doesn't change. I want to follow the pattern. I don't want to deviate and stray away from the pattern. And we talked about that fullness of life. Fullness of life is when you go back to the very patterns that were found acceptable and more than acceptable by the God that we serve. In Abraham. Follow Abraham's pattern. You do yourself a great service. Abraham had a great teacher. We need to do the same. That he received instruction from. Tor Walkerson makes you think of when you say, ladies and gentlemen, or when you open the door for a lady and let her go in first. Many other examples that we can actually see here in the verse of what Abraham did with Sarah's tent putting up first. Oh, indeed. Tor Walker. Indeed. And then Rabbi Yosef Hilton goes on to say, yes, a woman's natural proclivity is to make the home. Oh, indeed. But it's not the woman that makes the home. It's the man that does it. See, Abraham put up her tent. Do you see that? That's what I want you to see. So, It's the man that does it. The man has to do it. You have to make the house. Women, take heed. If a man's not trying to make you a house but living with mama, you need to run away like Forrest from that man. Men, take heed. You have to establish the home for the woman. You see, that's important. See, these patterns are so important. And when you begin to do this, I'm telling you, you're gonna feel the fullness of life. You're gonna live the fullness of life, and that life more abundantly. Awesome. This is where it is right here. This is where it is. Yeah, I tell you. You know, these hidden truths are being revealed for those that can get revelation of them. Now, sometimes it may take years. Don't expect these things to happen overnight, because they don't, right, Adelia? They don't happen overnight. They may take time. But I'm telling you, when you take one step with Tom and Jerry, when you take one step with your foot, my goodness, do you not believe Elohim's foot is bigger than yours? Just imagine how many steps he's taking for you when you take one step in the right direction to do what's right. You take that action. My goodness. You go 1 foot, heavens goes a mile for you. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. Understand that point, and you'll go far. But it's right action. Yes, words are good, but what are mere words with no action? Are we not told that in our history as well, in our books? What are words with zero action? So I think we have to examine that as well. But we must take appropriate action. And kudos to those that are taking action. It may not be, 100% on par, but at least they're taking action. And this one you can see mercy. And this is when you can see grace. Because at least you're trying to take some action. You may be stumbling and fumbling all over the place. But even that is being negated. Why? It's because you have the son of Aaron in the gate. So, you shouldn't even halfway do it. You should be 100% on par, because you have the instruction that's needed. We have the same tools that Abraham had. He had a great teacher. Do we not have the same? So what's our limitations? We put boundaries and limitations on ourselves, and we should, because we must understand this point. We must understand this point, Mr. Bahar. Is that we must make room. And I'm going to close with this, because I'm closing, man. I'm going to close with this. And hope I say close. I'm going to close with this. I want you to do this experiment. I love water. I'm a big fan of water. Anybody else? Our bodies are made up. Look, the earth is made up of more water than it is land, right? Even our bodies. Aren't our bodies made up of more water than it is any other material, any other mineral? Think about that. Now, I want you to understand this. And I want you to do this experiment with your family. As the title of this lecture is to make room. Co-workers is not only loved, but needed every day. Oh, indeed. You need it every day. Try to go without it. You may go without it for a few days, but then you're going to crash and burn. You see, you may be able to go without it for a few days, but then crash and burn is ahead. Without water. Now, I want you to think, well, Rabbi Kefa, I want you to imagine this, and I want you to even do this experiment. Do it today on the Shabbat. You can do it with your family. It's a beautiful experiment. And this came to me. I tell you, Hokma, she gives me these great things. But she only gives me little tidbits. That's all I need. Because a little for us is a little for heavens is so much for us that we can't. It's more than we need. Now, do this experiment. I want you to get a glass of water, and I want you to, get an object, a rock. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. And I just want you to take the object, and just put it in the water. Put it in the water. Tell me how many times in that experiment that the water rejects the object. Water will never reject the object, right? When you put something in the water, what does it always do? It always makes room for that object. Think about that. And Hokman gave me that. That was such a revelation to me this week. It just makes room for whatever object You could be big as a whale. Free Willy, you could take Free Willy. And it just takes it in. Think about that for a minute. That's how we need to make room for our societies, for our families, for our friends. You need to make room. You need to be just like that water. No matter how big it is or even how small it is, take it all in and just keep it moving, Mishpachah. Think about that. It's a beautiful thing. Explain this to your children this way. You need to just be just like this water. No matter what we put in it, the water's going to make room for it. Has the water ever not made room? Think about it. If we take all the people on the face of this earth and put them into the ocean, into the water, there'll still be room. The water will still make room, Mishpachah. Think about it. Even if it has to give up of itself, it's going to make room for you. You think about it. How many of you ever run some, you know, you're in that romantic moment and you run that Calgon bath and you put the candles on, put a little Luther Vandross on, and you get the mood right and you feeling good and you put that, you know, the little perfumes in the water and all that, and you get into that water. My goodness, you get into that water, and you know, water don't reject you. It takes you in. But maybe sometimes in that big old tub that you have, you know, you get in there and the water may have to give up of itself because it may have to overflow in that tub. And you have water all on your floor, but you don't care because you're so happy. You in that water. Man, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Isn't it a beautiful thing? That the water will even make room by giving up of itself. It's not going to sit there and look at you and complain, oh, I filled this tub up with this water and now I'm losing myself because you done got up in here and now I'm on the floor. Now I'm just going to wait. No, water don't complain, does it? Water just does. It just makes room, Mishpachah. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, Mishpachah. So you need to become that same kind of water. Water never rejects anybody. I don't care how big, how small, what your color is, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Abraham was the same way. We need to be the same way. To where we just make room. Make room for the people around you. Make room for your family. Make room for your friends. Make room for the job. Just make room. Don't complain. Just give up of yourself. Become selfless instead of selfish. Oh my goodness. You're doing yourself a great service. Abraham shows us this even with his family members. Hey, Lot, we must make room. We have to make room. There's no room for us. You pick whatever way you want to go, I'll go the opposite way. And as soon as Abraham did that, well, his name was Abram at the time. As soon as Abram did that, what happened? Then all of a sudden, God begins to speak to him, give him revelation. Torah tells us, after Abraham and Lot separated, you know, Yahweh begins to speak to Abram. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing, Mishpachah. So take heed, take this to heart, Mishpachah. Do the project with the water. Even if you want to run some water, some bath water for your wife tonight. Think about what Rabbi Kefa said. The water will make room even for both of y'all in the tub. Baruch Hashem. Both of y'all can get in that bath water together with the candle lights on, little romantic music in the background, and just enjoying each other's company. Or even if it's by yourself, enjoy your company. Enjoy that Calgon bath. Let it take you away. What a beautiful thing. Make room, Mishpachah. Make room. You think about that going forward in your 6 days of labor ahead. For some of you may already be in it. That Shabbat may be over. And for those of you still in Shabbat, you can think about the 6 days ahead that's coming your way. To make room for those that are around you. Make room. If water can take them in, so can you. You can take them in as well. Make room for the people that are around you. Don't be judgmental. HaKohen's lecture was so great. Don't be judgmental. You're not here to judge. Your remit is not to be judge and jury, but just to make room. Make room for all of God's creation. Humans, plant life, animals, make room. You'll do yourself a great service, and you'll really be giving esteem to the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth. You'll really be given great esteem, the Mishpachah. But you must make room. Make room on the interstate. I was driving on the interstate. You know how when people try to get on, they try to merge onto the interstate. Nobody want to let them in. Sometimes you got to pump the brakes, slow yourself down, slow your momentum down, and allow other folks to get on the highway. They trying to go somewhere too. Help them. You slow down. You pump your brakes. Now, I see so many people. They just, zooming by, racing by. People trying to get on the interstate. Make room. This lecture is quite relevant. It's quite timely in all facets and areas of our life, not just spiritual. We're trying to live a life on this earth, Mishpachah, and one that is more abundant. But we can't do that when we're making more people angry. This, that, the other, and the third. Simha saying we have too many old negative things to unlearn, and many new things to learn, and to be happy, to have a happy life. Oh, indeed, Simha. But we can do it because guess what? Time is our friend. Time is our ally. We can definitely do it. It can be done, but it must happen one day at a time. Every day, try to get better. Every day, just try to do a little bit better than you did the day before. At least maintain. Let's not try to go backwards, but at least maintain to where you can get to the point to where you can get better. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, Mishpah. This is a paradigm shift. Your lives are changing. It's a paradigm shift from what we were brought up in and conditioned in as we were dispersed in these nations to the four corners of this earth for a great reason, to be lights to these nations, to be polar opposite to what they're used to. You see, because if they positive, then we must be negative so that we can do what? Not that we can stay separated, but that we can attract. Wow, what a concept. So that we can come together, not be further apart. No. They need to see the negative, and they can be the positive, but we can still come together. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. Tadah im Hokmah for your timely, your wisdom that you impart to me. And I just open my mouth and say it. Not trying to offend anyone, not trying to shame anyone, but that we can all attract as human beings, as humanity, live together. In what? In peace, in shalom. Wow, what a concept. We run around here saying shalom with our lips, but is it backed up with our actions? Do we make room for the next man, for the next woman? Do we? Ask ourselves this question. And we must. Then we must see if we're doing it in an example. Yael, woman of the tennis, saying, I used to teach people to drive semi-trucks, and one thing they had to learn was to be willing to make room. They hold lives in their hands. Oh, indeed. Indeed. It's so very important. Some of you must make room as well, as you may have other folks in your car, your loved ones, your son, your daughter, little baby girl, little baby boy in the car, son or daughter, wife in the car. Oh, you're going to need to make some room. You better be pumping your brakes. It's because they looking to you. You know, I have a discussion with my wife, and I'm so glad she's here because we have so many great discussions face to face now. Baruch Hashem, that's the Jesus of Nazareth, and not over WeChat. But now it's face to face, eye to eye. You see? And you have these great discussions. And you know, she said we're talking about taking long journeys. Because, you know, she don't have this concept of getting in a car and just going somewhere for 10 hours, 12 hours on a drive. China? My goodness. You stuck in traffic at one light to the next for about 5 hours. You see? So she don't have these concepts of just traveling. She was like, well, you know, this place is very far. Maybe you're driving and maybe you will fall asleep. I was like, no way I'll fall asleep. I was like, there's too much responsibility in this car. I have you, I have my daughter in the back, I have my dog Pharaoh. If anything, I don't care if it's 12 or 20 hours, my eyes are wide open. I'm not trying to even doze. You see, I'm eating chocolates and drinking on some Coca-Cola. I'm not even, and when I say Coca-Cola, I'm talking about that Mexico Coca-Cola. I mean, you know what I mean? That Coca-Cola, that's the real deal. Not the stuff they water down here in America. I'm talking about Mexico Coca-Cola. I'm drinking Coca-Cola. I am not trying to get into nobody's wreck with all of you because I'm responsible for everybody in this room. I love everybody in this car, and I'm not trying for nobody to get in any kind of harm on my watch. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. So there's not going to be no dozing. I did tell her. Now, I might try to doze if it was just me driving in the car by myself. You know what I mean? Because it's just me, you see. It's just me. But with all this responsibility in the back seat and to the right of me, and I'm not trying to, I'm awake on this journey. Don't worry about it. This journey, I'm wide awake. Do you see the parallel? We're on a journey. We have to be wide awake, man. We got a lot of responsibility on our hands. We got people with their, just like Yael 110 said, we have people with their lives in our very hands. Wow. Think about that. So we must be responsible. We must be held responsible. Both eyes wide open. Don't have time. Even if you got to put toothpicks on those eyes, keep them open like on the cartoons. Put them toothpicks in there. Keep your eyes open. I want to see some pupils. That's important. So I hope you all have a great Shabbat and enjoyed the lecture as we talked about doing what? Making room. We must make room. And you guys, I want you guys to start noticing this in your lives during your 6 days of labor. You're making room, but maybe you just don't even know it. But now we're putting a name to your actions and an action to your name, to the name. All right, let's do that. And you'll notice, like, Rabbi Kefa's right. I am making room. I'm making room. I'm making room, and it's a beautiful thing because you are making room. You are making room, Mishpachah. But you may not even be noticing it, but you are. Go make some room. Let's make some room together. All right? Let's do that. So you all have a wonderful Shabbat. I hope you all have a wonderful Shabbat. Enjoy your families. And we'll see you next Shabbat if the Master, Jesus of Nazareth, decides to linger. We'll see you here next Shabbat. Oh, by the way, for those of you who came in late, we do have some time changes. We're going to be starting 8 o'clock Central Time next Shabbat. It's going to be 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time. So the room will probably open at 7:30? Be careful. Be mindful of that. We're starting early. For those of you who came in kind of late or, right on time to our, HaKohen started the lecture early, so that's the announcement. Take heed, take it to heart, and we'll go forward. Maybe you want to listen to the lecture and you listen to the recording, you'll get it there as well. Okay? You all have a great Shabbat. Enjoy your families. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. Baruch Hashem.